At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will now call the roll. Lee Kennedy, Eileen Conico,
Present.
Mark Warshaw,
Hello.
Linda G. Adams,
Present.
Dean Middleman, and John Allen. Present.
Here, present.
Okay, before we begin, I just have something prepared. In February 2017, Connecticut School District's Board of Education commissioned a Facilities Advisory Committee to review the conditions of our district's facilities and provide the board with a recommended scope of work. The committee included a cross-section of committee members, district personnel, board members, and the district architect. The Facilities Committee met countless times where they discussed the facility and academic needs, toured the buildings to view their current conditions, and analyze the project's financial impact. The committee's recommendations include enhancements at each building, underground electrical upgrades, sidewalk and curbing for the ADA compliance, HVAC upgrades, asbestos abatement, as well as interior upgrades, library media center, and reconfiguration in all buildings, playground enhancement in all elementary buildings, LGI renovations in both middle schools, reconfiguration of the high school guidance suite and music rooms, updating of the locker rooms and field enhancements, including extended bleachers and a field house for sanitary facilities at the high school. Additionally, the project included a maintenance building and storage shed to move caustic materials out of the basement of the high school. The proposed scope of work was redesigned with every student in mind. After comprehensive study, the committee recommended a capital improvement plan totaling $46.2 million to be funded through a bond and the district's existing capital reserve fund balance. Current financial conditions are optimal for this type of work. Connecticut School District currently has a full funded capital reserve in the amount of $9.5 million, which yields $20.5 million in capital work with no burden to the taxpayer. Additionally, in 2021 and 22, 1.935 of borrowing will fall off the books, which equates to an additional $21.5 million in borrowing, which would have no tax impact. In fact, with the total project currently proposed at $46.2 million, the district will potentially be able to decrease the tax levy by the difference in cost of $3.8 million in borrowing. Capital projects built for the future. New York State's changing curriculum with hands-on applications in STEM, research in STEM and humanities, application of information and collaboration and project-based learning in all curriculum, the increase in coding and real-world 21st century skills that our students will need to be able to meet the changing workplace demographics. Mandate that our facilities also change with these increasing demands placed on our students. This is nowhere that this is more important than in the library, which is moving in the real world to become learning commons, a place where students can collaborate on research, engage in STEM activities and maker spaces, and work in flexible groups to accomplish many of the social and interpersonal goals that are inherent in the 21st century workplace. The proposal comes with no additional cost to the taxpayer and a potential decrease in the year 2022-2023 school year. Consider that many of the students entering our school system in that year have yet to be born, and you must consider the impact that these decisions we make here tonight have our students' futures.
Before we start, can I focus on the principal? Okay. There's been some class trips to the Arboretum, one from Slocum, including the principal stopped over, and 3 are coming out of Sycamore over at the Arboretum. They're great trips. I was kind of wondering You know, I would think everyone would jump on the opportunity, you know, all schools, because it's free, it's educational, and it's fun. Actually, because of the Slocum one, and there was it ENR, whatever that group is, all foreign kids. ENL. They talk to their high school. The high school now wants to come. There would be kind of a different type of tour, but I was just wondering why, I don't need an answer, but in my head, I was wondering why you guys didn't jump in.
I have 4 trips pending.
Not to the Arboretum.
Yeah.
But you did it a different way now.
Oh, no, I have my whole 3rd grade coming and another class. And a second. It's great.
They were there doing what?
No, they're planned to go. I signed off on it.
Oh, okay,
They haven't gone yet.
I didn't get any information on that, usually it would come to me. So there's something going on, or maybe you're doing it a different way, but then you don't know what you're getting at the end. So if you want to call me,
Okay.
and find out, because I can schedule them in December, that's what they want. It's just a fun thing, that's all.
No, I'm there every weekend.
You say you have 4 pending, you have 4 separate trips?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so a couple board members and I had the opportunity to go to the NISBA convention, and knowing that we had potential capital projects moving forward, I made sure that I went to as many capital projects presentations and pieces of the conference that I could. And one of the presenters was Land Corporation, which they're upstate New York, so I'm showing their work, but one of the things that they were talking about is changing the landscape of classrooms in the 21st century for the different kinds of learning that we do with children that's project-based and hands-on, and much more relevant to application of information. So I handed out to the board just some pictures of some examples of some of the schools that they've changed to have these more open and flexible spaces in order to do that kind of work in a library or in another kind of common area. You also will see that in front of you are 2 other additional articles. Both of these feed off of the New York State Education Department website. They are what our librarians and our library media specialists are saying is necessary to move our kids into the 21st century. And so I just found a really quick PowerPoint to show you the difference in changing away from the traditional view of what a library is, which is just a repository of books of knowledge, which is really hasn't changed since about 3000 BC, when you looked at the library in Alexandria, and really it was the only place that they could store that kind of knowledge, and you had to be very high in the echelon to get in. We've moved away from that in society. If you look at all of the local libraries that have had any changes to their scope of what they ask kids to do, it's really not only just kids. When you drive by on any given morning, there's hundreds of cars out there because it's become an event, a place where people can come together, they can do research, they can get online, they can work together in flexible groups and collaborate. So I just wanted to do a very quick overview of what that looks like and where the future is. It's pretty interesting because we don't think this way in the way we do work in a school building, but the form is supposed to follow the function. So how are you using a space is supposed to be designed for what you're actually doing in the space. And we've designed our schools into cubbies, and that's really just been tradition for hundreds of years now. And that's changing because we're looking at the way corporations are working right now. So if you go into Amazon, you will see that there are no cubbies. People don't work in little cubicles. They have open spaces where people gather, some people stand at desks, some people talk to each other, some people work in individual capacity. But your form is supposed to follow the function of what you're trying to use the room for. So teaching and learning should shape the building, not vice versa. So the things that we want to do with the project-based and hands-on and the flexible learning should be what we're designing for our kids in the space that we create. So the transformations that are going on right now, and this happens to be happening in Canada, but it's happening all over Long Island. There's about 8 different school districts within their last bond who have redone all of their library media sites to do this more in-depth and collaborative kind of learning. So they're taking a library and a computer lab and they're creating into learning for the future areas. They're calling them learning commons. So these are some of the physical features, and I went to multiple seminars and they're all talking about flexibility, being able to move the furniture around, being wireless, having places that kids can be productive productive and work together. Things that are comfortable and stimulating, books and resources that kids want, and computers and books that don't get in the way of their moving around and doing what they need to do to accomplish their goals. We want to make sure there's equitable access, that there's learning, separately learning experiences, they're relevant in real world, and those are being designed by our library media specialists with our teachers and our administrators. As we move toward the new next-gen standards, these are the kind of things, it's application of knowledge and not just going to the library to get a book out to get knowledge from that. It's a cultural center, it's a place for professional learning, and that's how people are changing our library. So the question is, does our library look like this? Yeah. Do some of them look like that? Yeah. It's a little nicer, a little more friendly, but it still kind of looks like that. And this is the future. Learning spaces for kids, furniture that can move. These are all different pictures from all different places. And you can see that this is what learning looks like, because this is what the work world looks like right now. If you go into any college library, this is exactly what you will see, and this is what we need to provide for our kids. Because when they go to the college environment and they haven't had this opportunity, this is what we need to provide for them. Network learning. And everything's movable, so you see that all of this stuff is on wheels or easy to move so that they can regroup and group, they can put a large group, they can put a small group. These are the kind of things that we need to be able to do in our libraries. Making sure that there's power at every table, so we need to plug in, but ultimately making sure that there's flexibility. So everything in here is on wheels that can move and reshape as the teacher and the learning environment so it feels fit. Very put together. I have desks if I want to sit by myself. You can see there's comfortable seating over here that if kids wanted to collaborate. These are the kind of things that we're looking to do. So you'll see there's still some books and some knowledge base here, but it's more flexible in the grouping that you can do with kids. And these are just from all over. There's pictures of different places that have already done this kind of work. So you'll see we're getting away from being repositories and getting more toward an active learning environment. This is one thing that we were talking about at the high school. You can see that the wall is on tracks, so that if you wanted to create a more intimate environment or have two classes doing very different things on different sides, the walls could slide back and forth so that it can group and regroup as teachers and kids see fit.
All these schools is high school?
No, they're middle schools and elementary schools as well. Ideas. So this is another elementary school. You can see it's flexible. There's learning spaces all over. They have a maker space, which is what we've begun to build in each one of our libraries. But we're forcing it into the existing form rather than saying, you know what, this is the function we want to have, and so therefore the form needs to look like this, which is really we have the opportunity to do right now. This is another one that actually will stage right into their libraries. This is the kind of thing that we're talking about. That's it.
You guys think about John?
I don't know if you want to ask Christina or any of the principals or anything about what I just spoke about, and if there's anything they want to
I would like to hear from the principals, how their thoughts on this.
Yes, please.
Hold on.
No.
You use your mommy voice, sometimes that works.
She's got a little bit.
I know, I do. I have a mommy voice. Good evening. Hello, Dr. Adams. Thank you so very much for bringing forward the images through that presentation. Last October, I initiated a conversation with our district librarians regarding their library media centers and what their wish lists would look like. If we had limitless funds to expend on improving and refurbishing our spaces according to what the students are presenting, what would those spaces look like? And the concept of flexibility came to the forefront over and over again at every level. And so, and we do have Ms. McGinnis, who is our OBMS librarian, here with me this evening to kind of speak to some of these pieces, or at least support some of the pieces that I'll share with you. But the opportunity to create for our students an environment that's inviting, that speaks to the needs of every student, for their level of readiness and presenting an opportunity for them to have a space in the building where they feel invited and comfortable and ready to collaborate. Again, really kind of came to the forefront through those conversations. Our discussions went down to the most nitty-gritty of levels in talking about outlets, the availability of electrical outlets within our spaces, according to our changing times. So we're finding that our students have the need to plug in, and we don't have the opportunities to provide that type of access for them in our spaces. We talked about the opportunity to move furniture, and not only that, to be able to see our students across the library media center. So in our elementary libraries, we talked about the opportunity to see our students over the book stacks because they are so high and our students are so small at those ages. These are small logistical pieces that we wouldn't necessarily consider in the day-to-day, right? They're just kind of form and function of how we operate within our library media centers. It's the furniture that we have, it's the space that we've been allocated, they're the resources with which we're working, and we have received through the district a tremendous amount of support in terms of offering those makerspace opportunities in our library media centers. As Dr. Adams said, it's kind of taking those spaces and fitting them into the existing space of the media center, whereas that flexibility would certainly enhance the opportunities for the students to engage. We also talked about some pieces, again, with lighting, small considerations, the ability for students to see the book spines clearly, for, you know, the concept of being able to look at the collection and explore what exists in the library. Illuminating dark areas in the library, and providing opportunities for students to cluster and collaborate. Through our now District Technology Integration Specialist, Victoria Pappas, we received an invitation from St. John the Baptist High School to come and explore their space as a unit and to kind of look at the renovations that they had undertaken over the course of, I think it was about 3 or 4 years. They opened their brand new library in September of 2017 to their student body and their community body. And of course, they raised funds privately. It's an entirely different funding procedure and practice. And so there were a lot of pieces to that configuration that wouldn't apply for us. But the long and short of it is that the librarians who were active in the process had a lot of the same concerns that were shared by our library media specialists here in Pennacotta. And so they designed a space that was inviting, that allowed for transitions and classroom experiences for students throughout the building. They were very proud to show us a glass wall classroom within the library so that it could be sort of closed off. Students could walk into a flexible environment wherein they could plug in, receive instruction with a smart board, much like the beautiful devices that we have here in the district, and go ahead and, you know, exit that classroom and then enter the world of this sort of cafe-like lounge-type atmosphere wherein collaboration is encouraged and voices are encouraged. So the library has become really this hub of every building in our district, I will venture to say. And we're looking for opportunities to enhance those spaces, to make them even more inviting and more student-friendly for the purpose of not only education, but supporting the whole child. And so that's sort of where we landed in terms of our proposals for our district-wide library media centers. Marie, is there anything that I?
Flexibility is just the key. It's the fact that I have my tables now in the library are essentially like, it's like the woman, the teacher below me always calls me, are you moving elephants up there? Because it's like, boom, 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 moving those tables. And also the makerspace stuff that we have is wonderful. But, I would think the lunch kids who come in to get a lunch pass because they want to use makerspace, but if I have a class going on, I can't leave them to their own devices of exploring the makerspace because I have a class that needs to concentrate on doing their research. So it's that dividing wall, having that allotted classroom, as well as the library space, like the the dividing wall, stuff like that. Those are the two huge components I think for the OBS library that would be key. So the flexible furniture and the wall. So those would be my two most important.
So more than two things can go on at once, or two.
And more than two things are happening simultaneously,
All the
but
time.
it's
All the
not
time
with,
in the library.
it's not with ease, right? So there is a tremendous amount of heavy lifting and management on the part of all our library media specialists district-wide on a daily basis.
And even, I have kids who want to come to the library during their lunch period, but if I have a class scheduled in the library where I'm using the 9 computers that I have, or using the smart board, well then I have to say, well, to the lunch kids, no, you can't come, because I'm teaching a class. So it's one or the other. And that's what I would love to if I could eliminate that problem, then, better things could happen.
Please serve more children.
And what about, say, if you were running a class, the kids came to the library, and the teacher wanted to bring their kids in. Now, I'm going in the third group, a group for something to do with STEM, build or,
But that can't happen.
Could it
Cool.
happen?
And absolutely, if I had an enclosed area where, with the smart board, where kids can go on Chromebooks and use the virtual reference collection and be doing their research independently in that enclosed classroom, definitely. Then other people, other classes could be in the library doing an independent, looking for books or doing something in the makerspace or, just using the space. I mean, a lot of times teachers just call me and say, I need the space, because that the classroom setting is not always conducive to what they want to do. So a lot of times within the library, I get a phone call, I need your space. So I'm able to give more of the space if it's divided properly.
Can you eat in the library right now?
No.
You're not allowed to eat? Is that one of the rules?
I say, for a library lunch pass, you have to go down and eat and then come up. Middle school's a touchy thing. I don't trust them to food in the library.
That's why I'm asking, I'm just curious. It
Yeah.
looks like it's modern technology, everything they're doing and everything like that.
Mid-
It's like a
yeah.
Starbucks.
Like the middle schoolers, maybe the high school, they
So
allow.
it's like a little I get what they're doing. So I wanted to know if we were allowed to eat in the cabinet in the library.
It's
Not-
interesting.
Not middle school.
When we went to see St. John the Baptist, they actually had vending machines in their libraries, and all of us took a step back and said,
Well, they were allowed to eat.
and those students there were permitted
Yeah.
to eat. But that library, again, it follows the function of what's happening in that building. You have many students who stay very late, and that space is open for them, for their access. And so they saw it as a necessary kind of component to their reconstruction because that's where students frequented. And so they designed a nook within in their library media center to accommodate students who had these late sort of commitments to the building.
When you say they stayed late, you mean after school? That's where they hung out after school? Because during school,
After school.
I'm assuming everybody has classes.
Right.
So now, how much use is during the day the library getting? Just
Well,
like-
out of the 9 here, I know high school's a whole different animal with study halls and things
Yeah,
like that.
I'm assuming at night in high school you get used a lot more.
Right, but in the middle
Yeah,
school,
I'm just curious.
it's the 4 lunch periods. So 4 periods out of the day, there's always a
Traffic
bunch of
and then
kids
people
coming
going.
through.
They eat first, then go up there.
Yeah, they eat first, and then they come up to the library. And then it's the scheduled classes throughout the day.
So you're hopping, it's never a dull time.
It is, I
Except for
think
the
it's okay.
beginning of the day, it's slow, right?
Unless there's research, like class is scheduled. Yeah, but the kids who are coming independently to the library would be during their lunch period.
Anybody here from the elementary schools? So what about the elementary schools?
Well, Ms. Rubin, can you come up and speak just for a minute, because you've been in education for a while, you've seen the changes in education, I think you can speak to a lot of this new change.
Thank you for inviting us and asking for our input. The libraries are antiquated. That I can't say it any differently. Idle Hours Library has such heavy tables and chairs that it's impossible to even move them from place to place. They inherited them from a different school, they told me. Our bookshelves were bought from some store that closed. I'm not lying. They're white, they're plastic, once again, not easy to move around, very high. They have to be kept strategically in certain places so that they're not in kids' way. It's just, there's a lot of loss of space because they were planned for a different time, okay? And so there is a very big need for flexible seating, and that's not just, it's breakaways. Some kids are better if they're on a big beanbag chair to do the work that they have to do to cozy up. Another chair a child may need a higher desk. You know, I'm looking at this as a principal in my school that I want to move toward flexible seating in my classrooms as well, because that's what they're going to find in the workplace. You know, I have a niece that works at Google. It's very different than the world we represent in schools today. There are all different ways that people work together and they collaborate together. And I think, you know, we need to get to that place because libraries are not just about going to get a book. Kids have so much access to books. We have beautiful classroom libraries in our building now to support literacy. So there's more to it than that. You know, there's a technology component that's not really easy when you have separate computer rooms that everything is locked into the same space. So, I mean, you can easily see it if you visited our schools. They're antiquated. And we need to move really to a format that is flexible, that is thinking how we're going to be integrating technology, that it's real world. So that these kids, as they go to middle school and they go to high school, they have had these experiences. You know, it's not like they're going to, go to college and that's the first time they see a really workable space. So, you know, I highly recommended it as one of the things that personally my school needs very much. Some of the other schools had some minor renovations during the last time we built the kindergarten atrium, because I was here for that time. And some of them got new circulation desks and they got new bookshelves and stuff. My school, I don't know if they were at the end of the money or what, but they didn't get new bookshelves, they didn't get some of those things. They got old tables and chairs from someplace else. They are so heavy for a first grader to expect we're going to move the tables and this way. It's like impossible. So I think we have to really rethink, and looking at these spaces is just phenomenal to see what you can do with this space. And I happen to have my library near a courtyard. I would love if that could be incorporated so that there's more space, so kids could go outside and take materials with them on a nice day and be in nature as well. So I think there's a lot we can do to make these things better without, adding extensions. Okay, using the space we have, connecting them, like my computer room could connect into this space as well. Get rid of these storage rooms that are eyesores anyway with the clear glass, and also make them more security conscious, because many of them have these whole big glass facade windows in them, and I don't think that's the best security at this time. So thank you.
So a few years ago, it feels like yesterday, when my daughter was in Boston, I was part of, every Friday, we had a book club. And it was pretty good for me to think about it, did you eat in the library? So yes, we did eat in the library. So the fourth graders came into the library every Friday at their lunch period, and it was their choice. It was not mandated at all. It was their choice to come and join the book club. And I have to tell you, it was very uncomfortable sitting in those seats and trying to engage with the students, having lunch with them. And so when I see how these spaces are created, to have that Friday book club, again, the children, it was their decision to attend, it just would make it feel a little bit more cozy to be more engaging, to have those kind of conversations with those particular books. So I think it's great that we're kind of moving into this direction.
Would it be okay if I spoke?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to add another piece. I love Linda's presentation. I'm Lisa Farrell, from the principal from Duffield. Nice to meet you. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right, I just wanted to know.
I just wanted to talk a little bit beyond furniture for a minute. And I had no intentions of speaking at all, but after listening to all these wonderful comments, just wanted to add one thought on the elementary level. If you ask a child about library, they would say, quote, I have library today. I have library today. That's what they said. That's what the teacher said. Not, I'm going to the library. I have it, as if it was a subject. So if you go to the library when a teacher is assigned on the elementary level, you will see an ELA lesson. You will see the library. I can't speak for all the buildings, but I've been in most of the buildings. It looks like a classroom with bookshelves on the perimeter, for the most part. So pretty much a child is leaving the classroom for an ELA lesson in another room, pretty much set up like a classroom, for an ELA lesson that could very much be taught in the classroom, for maybe 10 minutes of borrowing a book. So the point that I'm making beyond furniture and the flexibility and collaboration is that we don't have library on the elementary level. We think we do, but we don't. So if we're moving towards, and I have older children, I'm doing, like Linda, I'm doing college visits now. I have a senior in college and a senior in high school, at Pinnacle High School. And so I'm doing the college tours with my youngest, and of course did it with my oldest, and their libraries do not look anything like Pinnacle libraries. They're like this. So if we're preparing students for not just the look, but what a library is supposed to offer to children and young adults, then we need to start down at the elementary level. It shouldn't be a classroom. It shouldn't be an ELA lesson. It should be going to the library.
Creating a different experience.
Absolutely. Otherwise, to me, keep those children in the classroom for rich instruction rather than a librarian who's skilled and trained in other kinds of areas that we're asking librarians to teach ELA. I'd rather keep them in the classroom, to be honest.
So I'm going to hop in because I had the opportunity to go to a book tasting at Duffield. And I think about that book tasting, which was a wonderful event where kids actually spent 2 to 3 minutes combing through a pile of books and then deciding which one they wanted to figure out was something that they might want to read later. And we sat at desks, we sat at tables, and I thought, I don't ever sit at a table to read. I actually never sit at, I'm actually more likely to sit on my couch or on my bed or on my floor to read. So in that, it's almost an unnatural environment. Kids do not sit like this to read a book. So those are the kind of things that even if we wanted to do the more traditional, figure out if the book is something you want to take home with you, library kind of thing, to have a soft space, comfortable space for them to just cozy up with, even for a minute or two to flip through a book, allows us to have that kind of space. It's the form and function. If the function is such that we want kids to explore books, they don't do that at a desk, but that's what we have. They don't, we have stacks that are so tall kids can't reach the top. I know, because I can't reach the top very often. So, we have these antiquated repositories of books. people don't have repositories of books anymore. Their information is right here. In fact, I read more on here than I read any book, and I never thought that I would like that. But standing in line at the grocery store, I can read a book. So we have to move with, move for the form to fit the function, and that's what we have an opportunity to do right now.
So John Ellen, would you like to add anything to this? I look forward to hearing
On
you.
libraries?
Yes, please.
Not on libraries. I mean, it's, I have to leave that to the experts. When we start discussing the libraries, we're really touching on the instructional side of what we're here for. We're here for the kids. That being said, if you want to get into some of the facility side of stuff, if you want to get into some of the financing and the money side of it, I can do my best to answer those questions to the best of my ability and get clarification. But, I think we've heard a lot of information about the libraries. I was engaged in a conversation earlier tonight about the libraries and the actual cost. Somebody's brought up the fact that if you add up all the libraries across the district and the renovations we're discussing, it equates to approximately $2.5 million. That number by itself makes me grasp at my heart. That is a huge number, hands down appropriate. I'm the same guy who drives a Honda Civic that's 10 years old.
And how tall are you?
120,000 miles on it because I'm very conscious and very aware of where I spend my money. That being said, if I were to turn around and tell everybody that it was only $4 million to do the libraries, I think we could sway some of the people from getting past the 12.5 to $4 million. Where do I get to the $4 million? That's because we have state aid. State aid for this district for products for instruction work is 67.6%. In that case, it equates to just over $8 million of state aid that we'll receive over the next 15 years. If we take that $4 million,
Are we paying that back?
state aid you don't pay back. State aid is a piece that's a revenue side of it, not the expense side. So from the expense side of it, the district would have an obligation of $4 million. That $4 million is over 15 years. It equates to approximately $270,000. Large number to say the least. You take that $270,000 and you divide it by the number of households throughout the Connecticut School District, which I do not have a definitive number, but I did a quick online search and it says 20,000 households. That equates to $13 per household.
Per year.
Per year to do the libraries. Now, I know this project isn't about...
But, I mean, it's $13, but they already spent that $13 because this is the money that we have. Am I right about that?
Well, that goes into a whole different question. You have a project that is...
I think, so if I could, but I think this simplifies it, and that makes sense to me. What he's basically saying, Lee, is if you were to pull that out of the bond, okay, what you'd be saving is $13 per household of their taxes.
That's correct.
That's correct, Tony.
That's
I heard
the
it,
point.
I heard it too.
That was the point, because the issue has become, if I may, the issue has become, people see big numbers, and it's scary, okay? And I never understood it until I actually took the time to try to learn it. And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, okay, based on the state aid that you get, okay, based on the numbers that John just used, the 20,000 households within the district, if you say that, the library's too much money, take them out. If you were to do that, ultimately, at the end of the day, the taxpayer is saving approximately $13 a year to remove those libraries from the bond issue. If you were to take something else worth $12,000 that are in the bond, and you said, you know what, we don't want the playgrounds for the kids either, you're going to save another whopping $13 a year. The way the formulas are built, developed, state aid, we're talking peanuts to not have these things in the bond today. It's very simple. If you just keep throwing out big numbers, it's mind-boggling. When you break it down by item, by section, and you have the data and the information on the numbers, it's a no-brainer.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. And I don't know if I'm doing a good job simplifying it, but I just wanted to emphasize that when you look at any individual piece of the project and you start taking into consideration the state aid, you take into consideration the 15 years payoff, and you look at the cost per household. Individual projects by themselves, I don't think are a real issue here. I think everybody needs to figure out for themselves, does the number itself make sense, and how do we get to that number with as little impact to the taxpayer as possible? So to that piece of it, 2 years ago, the community, with the board's blessing, put a resolution out there on the ballot to create a capital reserve for $9.5 million. That $9.5 million, using that same state aid ratio for work that is aidable, equates to 3 times that value. So that $9.5 million is the district's obligation. We would get the state aid ratio of 66% or thereabouts, depending on the topic, and get the purchasing power of $28.5 million. Certainly not the $46 million that we're proposing. How do we get to the $46 million? In 2021, the district has $1.9 million of debt service that is ready to come off from a capital project that will be fully expensed. The purchasing power of that $1.9 million is $21 million. So between those two items, between the capital reserve that's already been fully funded and the debt service that's coming off, we can fund this project with no increase to the taxpayer. I'm sure people have questions on that and how do we get to that and all the nuances associated with it. But that's the simple math. $1.9 million, somebody's going to turn around and say, that's a substantial amount of money. I'd rather see that go back to the taxpayers. I'd rather not see my taxes go up. Well, people need to know that it's not $1.9 million to the taxpayer, because there's a state aid offset to that $1.9 million. So if we have debt service of $1.9 million on the expenditure side, we also on the revenue side have approximately $1.4 million coming in on the revenue side. That delta is about $585,000 on that particular example. That is the amount that you have available that doesn't need to be recaptured in a budget. Not $1.9 million, not any other number that we're talking about. It's that delta, that one third of the whole debt service. Take that $600,000 divided by the 20,000 household. We're talking $3. So I guess what I need is to know what pieces in general are of concern, whether or not we need to revisit the entire project, whether or not we can move forward with this project. I know at the last board meeting we talked about different resolutions between the wants and the needs, and I explained the fact that my wants and needs are totally different than every other person in this entire community. Somebody needs to make a decision as to how we move forward and what that actually entails. We had a long, lengthy process with the facility committee. There were some people on the committee who felt that the libraries should be considered, that somebody felt that the auditorium at the high school was too much money. I get it, and when you look at the numbers by themselves, they are large numbers and they make me flinch. But if you look at it in entirety and you look at the way the finances line up, I don't see the value of removing items at this stage of the game. That being said, that's my personal opinion, that's my recommendation. Then we need to take the next step. When do we move forward? At the last meeting, we did the CEQA. We approved that from the total scope. We worked with the understanding and the hope of trying to go out for the February vote. Some people are going to turn around and say, why do a February vote? Why would you go through the expenditure of another $40,000 to do a vote when you have a vote coming in May? I'm a firm believer that you really don't want to mix the bathwater. You have a bond that has to be explained very specifically to the entire community. You have a budget vote that drives the entire district for the entire course of the year. You don't want to jeopardize one with the other and try to confuse and ultimately confuse the issue. While I don't like the fact that it's going to cost $40,000 to do a separate vote, it would be my recommendation to separate, because historically, you have more success if you separate the vote and you can focus on educating the population on one item or the other. So, what do we got?
Mark, you had a question before?
You?
That the reason how you,
Oh, good.
he was getting to your answer.
I have a question though for the library. Elementary. You did the elementary, who's it? Elementary teacher, teaches here in the elementary? Do you take your students to the library?
Because I'm a music teacher in the district, and music phys ed teacher in the district, but the classroom teachers will take their students once a week.
Once a week they go, other than that, they don't go on their own ever, correct?
The kids?
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
maybe,
a free spot in the schedule, in the library schedule, and the teacher wants to use that free spot, but that,
I'm just curious how much use the kids actually get out of the library. You know, I can see the junior, I think it's more use.
I'll talk a little bit about the
Yeah.
library.
I don't see it getting you, I just text my son's very smart, intelligent, he's actually going to college. He goes, Dad, I didn't even know we had a library in elementary school. You want to look at it?
Well, a little
So I just want to know, we're gonna spend money? I'm all for spending money, great.
I'd say
Let's
it's
look
with
at what
equal
we spend.
use to many of the other facilities in the elementary schools. Like,
Excuse me?
It would be to equal use of the music room, to equal use of the gymnasium, to equal use of the cafeteria.
What are you saying? I don't understand what you're saying.
So I think they use the library as much as the kids use the music room or the art room or
Well, it's a period in the day that they go to.
It's scheduled as a special for the schedule.
Schedule.
And then also, if there's holes in those library schedules, the classroom teachers will bring them in on those holes to make use of the facility.
But you do use the cafeteria a little bit more, because I think you go there
Yeah.
every day, right?
Yeah, every day, but the library is also being used every day.
They'll be only using cafeteria portions, right? So that's.
Right, but every class goes there, every single day.
I'm not looking for a debate, I just want to know the facts.
No, I totally agree. And I'm just going to,
Just
not
getting
somebody,
information.
and I apologize.
I'd love
I
to.
just feel,
And your name, I'm sorry.
I'm Ms. White, Principal John Pearl Elementary School, been the principal there for almost 30 years.
How are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
Good, thank you.
The library in many of our elementary schools are the center of the school. We have outstanding librarians. Many years ago,
Meaning now we have outstanding libraries?
absolutely, John Pearl, outstanding librarian.
What
Librarians.
about the library itself?
And the library, sometimes it's not just the room, it's the magic, the things that go on in the room. Many years ago, we had the atrium, of the board, and many years ago, some of our elementary schools, we maybe just had a room and some books. When I got to John Pearl, we didn't even have a book that the man had landed on the moon yet. But we still had a lot of wonderful things go on. Then we had the wonderful board, and John Pearl was very lucky to get an outstanding library with the circulation desk. It was just absolutely wonderful and beautiful. And the library and the librarians, they are still the center of the elementary school. Reading, love of reading, research, they're used a lot throughout. I have a librarian 4 days a week, not 5 days a week. If I had some 5 days a week, we'd still use it. But life has changed, so we're ready for the new change. We were thrilled when we did get our new library over, when was that year? 2002. 2002. So we're ready for the new change. The libraries are used constantly. It's not just I go for a period. In the elementary schools, like John Pearl, we've always had a classroom teacher, librarian, and whether years ago we had a technology teacher or we have someone in the computer lab. We usually have a research project that is a theme-based throughout the year. This year, our theme would be landing on the moon, so each classroom will be in the library and in the computer lab to do a research-based project that integrates library and technology, and we share with the class, integrating phys ed, art, and music into this presentation. The libraries are alive and well. Librarians are integrated into the entire building. Our librarian also talks about technology and safety, the safety of children when they use technology. So many years ago, we loved what the board gave us in 2002. We're excited because now it is 2018, 2019. Maybe we're going to be landing on the moon again. We need to continue our great outstanding librarians and library programs. And it isn't just one period a day. We use it all the time for research, technology, safety, and love of reading. So if you can update our library, we'd be very happy, and we're ready. concept.
Would you do coding, things like that in small groups in the library?
I mean, I have it, the code, like kids come to the library during lunchtime, or code.org, yeah, they're getting their little certificate that they can go, you know, graduating from code.org.
Maybe more of that type of thing? We had those circular desks that plug into the middle and do whatever they do.
Yeah, they had access to Chromebooks where I have 9 computers. So that's, I mean, 9 kids can do that at a time. But if I had this class, you know, then I remember how that's what's coming is a class of Chromebooks, so everyone can get online and then access once you've got a class of, you know, 25 of them. That's a lot more kids doing it.
And I will say, in the simplest and most kind of basic of ways, Karen Diener, who is the librarian at John Pearl, who Ms. White just really extolled in what she expressed to all of you, does a tremendous job of upcycling materials, cardboard materials, art materials, and that becomes her maker area. And she invites students into the Library Media Center, you know, when they have opportunities to come. So during their, I don't want to misspeak, but I believe that it's during their lunch periods and recess opportunities so that they can engage with that work in the simplest of ways, constructing something out of what we would probably consider to be refuse. So, you know, in those pockets of time where it exists in a school day, I know that our elementary libraries are operating and working outside of that construct of, you know, a typical class session. So, and that of course is happening in our secondary libraries as well, both middle schools and the high school. It's almost a three-ring circus if you step into the high school library at any point in day, any point of a school day. There could be 3 full classes operating at full tilt in that space. And again, truly, the librarians are doing the heavy lifting of management of those types of schedules and opening those spaces for student access. Again, sometimes it occurs in these tiny little pockets of a school day, but those are the opportunities wherein students feel like, oh, this is a place for me. And so it harkens back to everything that's been said about our district level libraries, and you know, when it comes to dollars and cents, it's a different type of conversation. But the heart of really what's being expressed, I think, is that it's about our kids and providing for them these types of opportunities.
So, Ms. White alluded to it a second ago, but there's curriculum that's taught in the libraries. Just like there's curriculum that's taught by our art teacher in the art rooms. So when we talk about elementary specials, that's classroom time outside of the classroom where kids are learning curriculum taught by specialists. So when they go see Jason, they're going to learn music. When they go see John, they're going to learn physical education and health and wellness. When they go see our librarians, they're going to learn library skills. So there is a curriculum that is based in each one of these. So 6,000 kids visit the libraries. Our elementaries visit at least once a week, and very often more than that. So during lunch periods, if there's no class scheduled, I know my son and daughter used to go there all the time. They used to go during their lunch periods because something was happening in the classroom and they didn't want to be in the classroom because it was an indoor recess, so they go to the library. So those libraries need to be inviting spaces for that. But make no mistake, there's curriculum taught in each one of those specials, and you know that's something that has changed significantly over time. When I used to go to the library when I was little, we learned the Dewey Decimal System. I don't think you guys teach anymore, do you?
I do.
You do?
I do. It's not how we organize on
It's organization.
It is.
It's got a lot
of
better.
reference collection, like just having kids access to virtual reference collection, which you guys are paying towards.
Yeah, the BRC.
I don't know, how many here actually, I know everybody, mostly teachers in Walden School District. How many are living residents here that pay taxes, just out of curiosity? So there's not that many paying. You gotta understand something, when you're up here on this side, we're listening, also making decisions for taxpayers. So there's a lot to be put into.
Can I say something as a taxpayer and as
Say
a
whatever you
parent of all levels of school? Part of me feels kind of sad that we're really debating over our library in our schools
debating over
No, no, I understand we want to make a reasonable choice, to me,
It's
that's
not a
not the
debate,
right word,
it's a-
but I just, it kind of makes me a little sad that there's a lot of questioning about libraries, because at the core of our curriculum, at the core of our society, is the library. It's where you read, it's where you get information, it's where you learn. The curriculum that Dr. Adams spoke of, that carries over into the classrooms. When you have an inviting space, you're teaching children also to have a love of reading, a love of learning, and now libraries have expanded so much so, I mean, just going to the Netwat Library, you'll see that there's iPads, there's programs, there's art class, I mean, everything that they do in those specials carries over into their classroom learning. When they're learning how to research, they'll carry that all the way through till college and in life. You know, think about when you're looking to fix your car, you're going to research it, and they're learning how to do this properly, and how to seek information, and how to want to seek information. When they go to art class, they're not just learning, you know, how to paint, you know, the Mona Lisa for a week. They're learning that when they read about that in their history books, and they will, because it is part of curriculum, things like that, they'll have a reference point. So it all carries over. The same thing with music. They'll learn about great composers, they'll learn about different time periods. So I feel like, I mean, I definitely understand that it's a large amount of money, but I think, I mean, we have a language-based curriculum to begin with. I mean, to really not, you know, want to go forward, it just makes me sad because I want them to want to go. The library is one of my favorite places to go. Yes, my kids, the library and the bookstore. And I don't know, I would love my children to want to go there, not just because, you know, it's a special and the teacher's fun, but because there's so many interesting things there. I want them to think outside of just that small little box of learning. And I think that the library could provide that. And having a child who is in elementary, and I realize it does change. I mean, people have grown children, even when I was not a child in elementary school, the library was very different than I think it is now. I think that they use it in a much more fluid way. You know, now I think a lot of the specials they use in a much more fluid way than they did when we were kids. It's more than just once a week, you know. Kids are visiting different rooms, they're learning different things. There's a lot of pushing clubs where they might, you know, come in and be a helper and work with other classrooms. So you have a social and educational aspect to a lot of these rooms. You know, it's not just a room with books. There's just so much more of it. And we're lagging behind in technology. We are. And it's just fact. It's not because I think we're a terrible district. Just in general, everyone's playing a catch-up game. But I think, you know, having that wonderful area where we did get the Chromebooks, how fantastic would that be? Learning, including, this is the way of the future. And we, as much as we want to keep our children maybe off that stuff or whatever, we do have to have some acceptance level and realize that this is going to be their future, whether it was ours or not, and whether we agree with it or not. It's simply, we have to give them a leg up. You know, I don't know, it just makes me say it. So I mean, I hope you'll consider all that when they're voting.
If we're allowed to speak then?
Yes, please.
I think, you know, all of that really is a no-brainer. It would be nice to have everything that we want to have. But there is some good discussion as far as how much it's used on the elementary level. Like we were saying, it's not quite as much as you would use it, you know, on the middle school level, the high school level. Is it all important? It's all important.
But do you think if it was nicer, they would use it more?
Wait a minute. But if we could have everything we wanted, that would be wonderful. We can't. So we have to start at a place that works responsibly where our money is concerned. And I'm certain that the elementary schools absolutely 100% need updated. But maybe not to the level where we need it for the elementary or the high school. Maybe that's where we save some money. I don't think a good way to look at our taxes is, and while I understand exactly that, you know, these, to turn down the library thing is $13 a year. To turn down the auditorium maybe is another $13 a year. To turn down the playground maybe is just another $13 a year. At the end of the year, it adds up. We look forward to that rebate tax track every year for the stinking $300 and something it is. Now you already took, you know, a percentage of that back. So I don't think it should be as easy as, well, it's only a few here, a few there. It adds up. The taxes are important. The taxes, this stuff is important. I'm just saying, you know, let's look at it from where, like we say, all the time, wouldn't it be great if the languages could start at an elementary level? There's a lot of things that would be wonderful to start right at the bottom. I don't think we as a community can do that with everything, all our brothers, all our things that we like to have. So maybe we need to say, update the libraries as need be, maybe at the elementary level, but where it maybe is more, like we're talking when we get to college and all of that, well, we definitely have to start at the high school level and get it to this beautiful scenario that we see here, and I would say, the middle school, but I'm not so convinced that that same amount of money or that same amount of upgrade at the elementary level is maybe better spent somewhere else. That's just my personal feeling. But please, keep conscious of our taxes and let's not look at it as it's only 13 here and it's only 13 there. I can't speak for everyone, but I can tell you in my household, that money at the end of the year, every penny counts. With 5 kids in and out of college, or I don't have to explain where those expenses go. So those $13 count big time to me personally, and I don't happen to think that I'm the only one that counts their pennies.
Can I touch on it? Somebody had touched on it earlier about a space for children to go to, and I agree. Our kids now need information as much as we can give it to them, and the library is the place for that. And do I think that we need to do certain upgrades? Yes, and I agree that we need to be fiscally responsible with it. But in today's time, there needs to be a place that a kid can go to for information. And them looking it up by themselves is not necessarily the best case scenario because there's nobody there to guide them, which is what brings the librarian into it. I think when we come up with things like we came up with that new program in the high school for the suspension and the, whatever the different... Yes, that. So here you're talking about a kid that goes and, now has to watch this thing on vaping. There's definitely, I know of 3 districts on Long Island that have, and you hate to use the term safe space because kids should have coping skills and not feel that they need to be in a safe space balloon, but it's in their library and it's an area that is aimed at LGBTQ, aimed at drug use, aimed at domestic violence in the homes. And it could be an area with couches and where a kid could go sit and just clear their brain if they've had that rough day. And they're sitting there and like, oh, look at this. Oh, that's me. Oh, that's me. Kids need that. And I think the library is what kind of brings all of that together. It's where they get their information. But I do agree as far as fiscally responsible, maybe we could do it more of like a different phases, over time, this is going to get this. Because we do as a district have a lot of different things that we want to upgrade. But I do think in that aspect of the library and what it entails in the generation and what we have now with information and at their fingertips and all of this stuff going around, I think that the library is what they would go to. For me, I would want my kids to have a place, outside of coming to me that has right there a book you can read, a pamphlet that has information on it, or somebody to say, oh, this is the corner you want to go look in, That's just my
You should
opinion.
talk to Mrs. Farrell and ask her about her space. It's not in the library, but it's a great space.
I just want to clarify one point though, that maybe I misspoke. The library has to look different than a classroom.
Yeah.
The library has to look different than a classroom. It has to be that place. In elementary school, it is essential that the library is the hub of the school. But it has to look like comforting, yes, but it has to look different than all the other areas. And the librarian is a library media specialist. She should be used as such. That's what her degree is for. That's what she's trained. That's what she wants to do. But we're, in a way, in the structure that we have, it's more like a teacher. It's teaching. It's very limiting to them. I just feel that the structure has to also change to help change the way we bring library services to the children. It's absolutely essential on the elementary level as much as the high school.
It is that way when they go to the public library, it's a totally different atmosphere. And I've never seen a library so crowded. The network, public library has changed radically, but has brought many, including adults, social events, constantly there. And they're playing right? And right in the middle of everything else, they're sitting there quiet, like that's there. So it does, just change the whole philosophy of life.
So John, I think that's the question.
Can I address something? Excuse me, sorry. So one of the words I just heard was phasing something in, and I couldn't agree more. That is absolutely critically important. It's taken us 22 months to get this project to a point where we're having an honest discussion with the Board of Education. If we go forward with the project, regardless of what the scope is, it's going to take us another year and a half before we get SCD approval. At that point, then we need to have access to these spaces in order to be able to properly address the work. Now, there is no way that I'm going to try to do $40 million of work in a 2-month period of time. This is going to have to be done in phases. It absolutely is going to have to be done in phases. The priority will be, according to everybody's, decision making, secondary campuses first. When we do the bids, we'll make sure that the elementary schools are a priority too, that we don't award it until we know that we can get all the other work done. We need to be able to do it thoughtfully, but we need to do it with long-term planning in mind. This is not a quick, simple process. And I apologize, I wasn't trying to belittle or lessen the $13, because that's not absolutely the furthest thing from my intention. I just don't want people focusing on the millions until we know the actual, impact per household and everything else. The other piece of it too is by phasing this work in 2021, we have $2 million, $1 million, $1.9 million of debt service that's currently embedded in the budget that is going to no longer be needed for debt service, and we can roll into the future project as well.
And we can do that legally?
Absolutely. And we work with bond council so that we structure it in a way so that the debt service aligns with the state aid, so we don't end up having this huge gap where the taxpayers are held responsible for this large amount of money. We would not bond it and go out for more than we could do in any given year, and it's going to take us a couple of years to get through all this work. With the capital reserve and the debt service coming off when it is a good opportunity to do a project. It's important to do a project of some nature because we need that state aid to replace the revenue that's coming off the books when that debt service comes off as well, because there is a revenue side. Furthermore, there's 2 other elements that are involved in the financial component of capital projects. We currently have a line item that's been in the last 2 budgets that's a transfer to capital. That transfer to capital has allowed us to remove some of the projects from this scope of work. We have 2 boilers at Slocum that are well past their prime. We're currently in the process of replacing them because the Board of Education decided to put a line item for $2.5 million for a transfer of capital. Additionally, we have a boiler at Prim that's being replaced. We have heating at Cherokee that's being replaced. Things that we did not have the ability to wait 2 years to do, but yet the state aid was available by doing it as a transfer of capital. I will not need a $2.5 million transfer of capital if we go forward with the capital project. So we have that piece. Additionally, 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25, we have approximately $6 million.
Stop right here.
Yep.
So, now you budget transfer of capital every year, $2.5 million in order to get some things done in case of emergency.
That is what has happened the last couple of
So
years.
now if we get this new bond, you won't be putting $2.5 million any longer into it?
I will not be asking for facility requests of that nature. Mrs. Donnelly might ask it for transportation for buses, but it will not need to be $2.5 million at all.
So that would come off, that would come out of.
Correct, and that's a dollar for dollar amount in the budget. I'm not talking about a state aid percentage in bonding, because that's in the budget. So you're talking about a specific line item that can be truly reduced. Absolutely. Yep, and then additionally, 23, 24, 24, 25, 25, 26, we have approximately $6 million of additional debt service that's coming off. So at some point, while I have no plans whatsoever of looking at the next capital project beyond this, at some point, the district needs to do five-year planning, five-year financial planning that looks at the debt service, looks at the state aid, and looks at the overall infrastructure. Because today, right now, this project addresses all the stuff I could possibly imagine and possibly think of. In the next 3 years, when this project gets approved and goes to state aid, what's going to happen then? We're going to have a roof that's problematic at Parental. Or we're going to have a septic issue at a building with pools collapsing. Things change, things evolve. We will be well positioned with the way the debt service is scheduled in this district to do work if need be as required. But right now, with the debt service coming off, with the capital reserve set up, we do have the ability to do this work at no increase to the taxpayer. When I was talking money at potential savings, if it doesn't get absorbed into another program or another project or something else. So I just want to clarify that the idea of phasing the work in is extremely important. I don't want people to ever think that if we approve this, we get voter approval on it, the following day we're going to start work, because it is a long drawn out process. And once we even get to that point, we have to phase the work in anyway, because there's no way I can get that amount of work done in a 2-month period of time. I just want everybody to be perfectly clear on that.
So John, when was the last time St. Augustine's Library was touched or Cherokee?
So I believe those two libraries were not touched in the last bond. I believe they have the original circulation desks from 50 years ago.
That's what I thought.
Supposedly.
Yeah, well, no, there's a couple of them that have new circulation desks. But the circulation desks themselves are pretty much the least valuable space in the library. Because every time I'm in a library, the likelihood of the librarian sitting behind the desk is few and far between. And I don't care if it's in elementary school, middle school, or high school. One of the things I didn't bring up before, and I don't know if it's my place to bring it up at all, but I would certainly welcome the comments from the instructional leaders. If we build a welcoming space, if we build a space that's multi-use, the teachers themselves, every free period that library is available, are going to sign up for it. Build it, they will come. Instead of the field of dreams, it will be the room of dreams.
Does anybody have any further questions regarding the library? Okay, so I guess the next big topic is the high school auditorium. That's the other big ticket item. So come on up, John.
We have Jason Champlin, who would be more than willing to speak to what we need to do programmatically.
I'll give a real quick overview of some of the logistical issues, and then we can hear from people that live and experience it. The acoustics in the high school auditorium are ass backwards. How's that?
Wait, can you start? The auditorium
Back ass
was built when?
50 years ago. I don't know the original date.
Other than
62.
new chairs and a new carpet, what was done that building, and the top of the building was built till today?
A new air conditioning system on the roof 15 years ago.
That's it, okay.
That's my understanding. Whether or not
No,
there were upgrades to something else, I don't know.
No, that's enough.
But all that being said, let's look at the acoustics. I've brought people in there, we've talked about it. You stand at the back of the room, you can't hear anything on the stage. You stand on the stage and you can listen to the conversation in the back. The way that space was designed, it becomes claustrophobic and the sound does not travel to the back of the auditorium like it should. I didn't realize there was anything that we could really do with that until we sat down with the architect and we started looking at some of the places and some of the problems that he's addressed in the past. We have floating ceilings in that space. We have dead space above those ceilings. We can open it up. We can open up the acoustics. We can increase the volume. We can do a lot. We can't do much with the infrastructure and the walls itself, but we can change the way the acoustics work in that space by starting with the ceiling. That is a massive, massive undertaking. Not just start with that. Then we got lighting, then we got sound. Once you get into it, once you tear the ceiling apart and you open up the volume, then you have the ability and the need to start addressing the sound and the lighting accordingly. Not only because it's equipment that's just available, but it's designed for the space that we have. That's way beyond my scope, that's way beyond any of the staff scope. That's why we need acoustical engineers. That's why we need an architect who has done auditorium renovations, who knows the tricks of the trade, who can bring in the experts and do it the way it needs to be done. So that's a little bit of backstory. Big price tag, hands down from the equipment. You know, it's a tough one. One of the alternates that I would recommend, because the facility committee actually balked at the idea of spending the money for new seating because they wanted to be, you know, as financially, you know, responsible as they could, was they wanted to reuse the seats. My personal opinion is it's a mistake. That's my personal opinion. That being said, that's the way it's been proposed up to this point. You know, I would love to go to the Board of Education and say, we need to create an alternate. At a minimum, we need to create an alternate. It's not to say that we're going to do it, but at least to have the opportunity to do it if the opportunity arises and the finances rise.
So Mr. Reynolds, I know at one of the facility meetings, you had brought over some samples of prior work that you have done in other districts. Would you happen to have pictures today?
I don't have anything tonight, but I could definitely email them over to Linda and John tomorrow to show the Board of Education. We've done, I guess, 27 or 28 high school and middle school auditoriums across the island in the last 10 or 15 years. No auditoriums are the same, just like the libraries we were talking about before. The configuration is a little bit different. But you've basically got everything down to the concrete block and the steel superstructure, and you work from there. But I'll email some over to Linda tomorrow.
Okay, now we're also addressing the two middle school auditoriums as well. So we're not as extensive as we're at high school, but they are in need of some work. So could you go a little bit into that?
Correct. So in those spaces, we'll again address acoustics, ventilation. The ventilation system there, we're working with the OBMS Large Group Instructional Space now with some ventilation needs to kind of bridge that gap. We've just replaced the floor and the carpet there. We'll be doing acoustics, sound, extending the stage, modifying those. I mean, it's basically like a pizza pie shaped space there. We're going to modify that sound system, lighting system, stage lighting in-house as well. So,
Are we doing anything with the front seating, the two middle schools?
yes,
So as far as, let's go back to the high school.
sure.
So with the acoustics, I actually ran into somebody, I think you were with me, when we were at the school dinner over the summer, and someone had mentioned working with you and that your acoustic guy was one of the best out on Long Island.
And, yeah, he works for me, and the only other thing he does is he works at Arthur Ashe Tennis Stadium every year, and he does the acoustics for the whole tennis, and that's the only two things he does.
Yeah, I forgot what district that person represented, and we had mentioned, you know, you as being our architect, and he said, oh, you talked about the renovation of the auditorium. He said, oh, his acoustic guy is the best.
Yeah, Rich Rydell, he's unbelievable. Not Rich Redwood, it's unbelievable.
Oh.
It's nice to hear that from the architect. What you're going to hear from the music staff is that they know people in districts that John has addressed in auditorium, and they can speak to the quality of work and the acoustics and everything else.
Come on now.
How's that for something?
Great. My name is Jason Champlin. I've been a music teacher in the district for 11 years. A little bit about my background: I was the vice president of our county organization, the Suffolk County Music Educators Association. And with that association, I toured pretty much every large, capable auditorium of the county. I have to know whether or not they're of quality to bring our county students there for concerts and everything. So that's a little bit about my background. Coming into Connecticut, our auditorium is backwards. So anybody who performs on stage, you lose the sound. So it doesn't project, it doesn't encompass what the quality of our district has. Our district, I think 11 years now, has won the Best Community of Music Education Awards. because of the acoustics, our teachers are limited on what we can teach our students. So even on the elementary level, I don't choose certain pieces to do with my students that I know will challenge them to the level they need to be, because I can't perform in a space that allows that. So I know that is even more in middle school and even more in the high school levels. We as teachers can't challenge our students to that level because our auditorium will fail them. So because of that, and because of the acoustical issues we have, we are only able to bring our students to this level. The same as athletic field, same as a volleyball gym at the high school. If those fields aren't of quality for our students, our football team will never be competitive in the county. And we're facing the same issues with the auditorium. I was actually just at Central Islip High School, who just completed a auditorium renovation. I'm not sure if that's one of the ones that you did, but they're bringing their facilities up to that level. We can't turn off the house lights in the auditorium without using the circuit breaker board. So rather than us hitting a button, we have to flip 5 switches to turn on and off the house lights. At a concert or at a musical, well, the students have to go to the breaker board and turn them on and off because our system's so antiquated, they can't merge the two systems together without renovating them. Hot Dog was recently renovated. It's a beautiful auditorium. That's one of you? Yeah, I know it's a much larger footprint than ours, but the things that they did allows their students to be more competitive, more successful than the students in this district. You look at Central Islip, you look at East Islip Auditorium, it's a beautiful auditorium. You look at even Nassau County auditoriums, like Mineola was just redone. Three Village was just redone. Many of our surrounding districts, Sables Middle School Auditorium is leaps and bounds better than Connect High School Auditorium. So if you have more specific questions, I can definitely answer.
I actually have a question.
Sure.
I don't know if you have the answer to it. At the, I'm only familiar with OBMS.
Yeah.
Actually, with the RMS, so this place
Great.
RMS, do you guys rent the equipment just for those plays?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, we don't have the sound systems to provide our students with that experience. So at the OBM and the Ronkonkoma Middle School musicals, we have to hire and rent out the equipment and bring it in every year, which is pretty costly. I'm sure you'll be able to find the cost. But
So John, would this bond address that, so we would never have to outsource that?
So, one of the things that I've witnessed with John Willow is he doesn't do any work without talking to the people utilizing the space. As we get closer to finalizing, or once the overall project is approved, before John can actually sit down with pen and paper and start designing it, he'll sit down with the staff. He'll address their individual concerns to make sure that it captures their needs and wants of themselves and the department, short-term, long-term, to the best of his ability.
yeah, and the stage is a problem at both middle school.
Yes.
Because they can't put on the performances in the way the shape. The stage is a huge problem at the high school. We are, out of 50 musicals, we can choose 1 or 2 because of our fly space, which is the ropes and rigging system that can raise and lower different sets and just that are required for us to have for certain musicals. They're not even on our list of possibilities. With the renovation at Central Islip, and I know Hot Dog and all of that, they address this with new technology where you don't have students pulling ropes to raise and lower, which is, you know, it's cumbersome and safety-wise. Now there's an electronic button that tells you the load that is allowed to be on that and how much more you can weight those fly systems. And it just opens up the possibility to further our students here in Connect and to keep this music program as successful or even more than it is right now. But we're very limited. Like you said, if I play my violin in the back of the auditorium, you should sit on the stage because it sounds 1,000 times better than if I play my violin on the stage and you sit in the audience. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do know that it's considered the bell tower of the district. And when we use that building, we use that auditorium for graduation for middle school. We use it for elementary schools. I'd go all the way as they, but they won't happen. I know it can't happen. I have a second. balcony, but that's not gonna happen. I accepted that. Still having a hard time. But, it didn't, I'm having a hard time, I know I can't have that. But I think overall, what would it bring to this district? I mean, just to change that ugly, I mean, it's ugly. It's old and it's ugly, and no one can tell me after, maybe only me, after 40 years, things look the same, 50 years. It's time to modernize that building. The kind of music programs we have, the money we're spending, we're bringing in education, we're bringing in third grade music. The third grade doesn't happen anywhere else. It's happening in Connecticut. The kids in third grade getting musical education. It doesn't happen. You go to other schools having them come to sixth grade. So we're giving them all this, but we're not giving them, not just them, the community. It's nice as they say it's gonna look. Maybe we could rent it out, for rancher items, things like that.
No, we're not doing that.
You could, I mean, you
They
could.
ruin your auditorium.
Yeah,
Make it nice for Connecticut kids.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm going outside the box, you can't get there.
Then you would have a very good.
Right? That
But
was,
you can rent it out before we go to the process, so that stays in.
yeah,
Once it's renovated, then no more.
No, but,
Every musician in this school district performs at the high school, elementary to high school. There was exception for one or two of the elementary buildings, but we all perform there.
it's time.
And we've been there where Brad Drinkwater tries to trick the auditorium by
Yes.
putting kids around the outside
Yes.
so that they sing to the
Oh, yes.
inside. I mean, they're trying to get around how bad the auditorium is.
The high school groups has gone as far as now performing elsewhere to give their students a proper experience and a proper. So they'll go to Queens College to perform in that space, or they'll go to a local community hall to perform in that space, rather than performing in their own. And we teach our students the opposite of what we should be teaching our students because of our stage, of our acoustics being opposite. So then when they go to the college, they're like, what's going on?
Right.
How? Why am I singing with it this way rather than this way?
And we did that, what you said was true about the turf fields. We did that, we put lights in, we put turf, and that's for a sport that goes on for 6 weeks, or 7 weeks, I don't know how long it's
If
football
you,
season.
with performing
This is forever.
subjects like athletics or competing on a field, or with performing art like music, you're only as good as where you're.
I think, unity bias, I think we have one of the best music programs in Long Island, hands down. The director, Mr. Lasher, I mean, the staff,
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
You can look
amazing.
at the stats from how many students we get into the countywide ensembles and we're dreaming of competition. It used to be certain other districts when I was a kid, and now we're like, I always joke that when I was a student, Free Village was the mecca of, and now we're catching up to them. But
We've surpassed that.
yeah, and we have surpassed them in some aspects for sure. But their auditorium, if you go to their auditorium,
We've surpassed
it's
them.
like a mecca there. Their auditorium.
It is, it's gorgeous.
If I'm correct in hearing this, Linda, did Mr. Lasher mention about close to 30 of our students pursue music in college?
Last year.
Last year,
Last year.
26 students are currently from last year's senior class in music as a career.
It's fantastic. I know on a small scale, I did talent show at Osby, and I remember us trying to do it at the middle school. And the stage just didn't work well, the kids wanted to put on the dance routine, and we ended up always having to move it to the high school, and then to get to high school, you had to put in a year ahead of time just to get a space at the high school.
Very difficult.
So the idea of being able to use our middle schools, I
We
mean,
used to perform as the elementary school in the middle schools, but it became so limited because of our growth in the program that not size-wise, we can fit there, it's just quality-wise, it didn't work.
right.
In the summers, it's way, not in the summer, but in May, it's way too hot to put an audience of however many would fit in Ron or over there in that space. It's too hot. So we moved to the high school. If we could make use of those facilities, the high school possibility of the facilities provided.
Now, John, Sycamore believe they're over trying to build, going to be having some renovation.
Much more scaled down. We're talking about lighting, sound, ceiling replacement, not to the same extent.
Yes, I know, but just unprecedented a little bit.
Yeah, we have it, so, we have an opportunity to do some work in that.
Does anybody have questions on the auditorium? Okay, so I guess we're moving on to the next big ticket item, which is the athletic field reconstruction. Come on, John, you knew you.
At the OBMS?
Where is this? It's 1.6?
Every item on every list?
No, just any of the big tickets.
1.6 at OBMS.
It is OBMS.
So the issue, obviously, with OBMS is the height of the groundwater there. So what we're going to do there is build a small retaining wall around the entire perimeter. I think it's about 2.5 acres. Build that up about 16 or 18 inches. Fill
The walls, they get filled in
Yeah.
dirt.
Yeah, so then the side of the wall closest to the building, that'll be sloped down at a nice 1-on-12 pitch, but the other three sides around the perimeter, we'll build that up higher. We'll then bring in clean stone and raise the whole thing. You can't really get deep dry wells. Part of the issue we're working on at that building is now, this coming summer, is the septic system. With the high water table, we have to add a lot more lower, shallower dry wells. Wider, they only come in 12-foot wide, and shallow, 2 foot or 2'6". So if we can use that stone as additional drainage material, that's going to increase our storage capacity of the when we have rainwater, we have that high tide, high water table, full moon, 2-inch rain. The water, there's just nowhere for the water to go. So in order to, instead of going down, we're going to build this thing up. But
Will that definitely solve the problem?
yeah, now what you're going to have to remember, and it's very hard to do, is on any grass field, I mean, you can have the greatest drainage system in the world, it's use. If we're going to then use it, if we're going to spend, $1.8 million and use it every single day and not give that time to rest, that grass to rest, after a heavy rain, we really have to take those fields out of commission and kind of try to rotate those through. Obviously, with a synthetic turf field, you have your stone, you have your drainage, and literally 10 minutes after it rains, you can play on it again. But I tell districts all the time, no matter how great the drainage system is on a grass field, if you're going to constantly use it and you think you put in a good drainage system, but you're going to use it 24/7, if it rains 7-8 days in a row, you're still going to destroy that field. I mean, it's just, that's something you really have to think about when it comes to natural grass.
Is there turf in this?
That OBMS is getting natural grass.
So you're not recommending natural grass, you're recommending spending money on another turf field?
No, not at all. That really wasn't brought up by anyone in the facilities committee to add additional synthetic turf fields.
But what you're saying is all this work, and unless we let the fields rest in between sports, it's not.
You have to be able to pull the trigger that if it rains 3 or 4 days and maybe a youth lacrosse game or a youth football game, you have to be able to say, listen, it rained 4 days, we can't let the kids use the field on that day. You're going to just destroy the grass. That's the same with any other grass field in a community. Overuse on a natural grass field, it doesn't matter what it's like, rest is the key thing. And I know it's hard. In a school where there's 8,000 soccer teams and lacrosse teams and football teams, you have to kind of try to rotate those things through.
You're using them every day though, so it's not.
I know, it's hard.
It's not hard.
So that's
It's not getting done, obviously.
correct.
Just so you know.
Oh, I believe me.
So what he's saying is, the better answer would be a turf field, which would make a better endurance, is what I'm getting from this.
But you're talking about 3 or 4 times the cost to.
I'm not saying
to
that,
put.
I'm just asking.
Yeah. Obviously, turf works better than natural grass. When it comes to use and abuse and nonstop, absolutely. When you're looking at, synthetic turf on a middle school, then you have 2 middle schools, then you got a, for equity, you got a turf bold, and now it's, you could argue, well, we're going to turf OBMS because it's got higher groundwater, but you just, as a Board of Education, I couldn't see you guys saying we're going to do one and not the other. It's the same thing with the auditorium, it's the same thing with everything else,
So John, how often do we pump OBMS versus RMS?
I don't know.
I imagine it's double. Years, if not triple time.
Yeah, I mean, typically, well, septic is a little bit separate, you know, and we're addressing that.
Right.
It was one of the items in the transfer of capital, so we are addressing it. To this point, we do a quarterly pump out on a schedule for all the buildings. I believe we're doing it at least 6 times a year. So, you know, instead of going every 3 months, we're doing it every 2 months. That will be best. But I do know that there are certain times when we have a large event coming up. In years past, Winter Wonderland, we pumped out regardless. Even if it was 2 or 3 weeks, you know, earlier that we just pumped out, we don't take a chance for those large events down to pump out. And partially because the pools, you know, it may not be filled with solids and waste, but because the groundwater's there, we just have no place for all the winters to go. So that's one of the reasons why that project was part of the transfer capital and is being designed and planned.
So, Mr. Barilla, so the $1.7 million, I'm gonna round it off, $1.7 million, it's a lot of money to spend, but we're not always gonna get what we're looking to achieve, it sounds like.
Well, I heard this go back to say, I can remember quite a while ago, they were upset because the girls in the baseball team ended up playing on the side of the field where they were all muddy, messy, and yucky. And they didn't get that money again, or whoever was playing on that side of the field. Or will it be better just losing it?
No, the drainage is gonna be, is 1,000 times better. Remember, on a softball field, it's all clay. So there's not even any grass, it's full clay. So you have to put a proper sand injection system underneath the clay field to drain it. But on a middle school field, I mean, if it pours all day, you're gonna cancel the game anyway. This is gonna alleviate all of the standing water or the higher water table with increasing drainage capacity, those kind of things.
So instead of a field, if we had several days of rain in a row, instead of the fields being unplayable for a week, it may be a day or two that they're unplayable. You know, there's better, of course, you know, and we also can't control.
That's why you have backup, and that's why you have games every day constantly.
Okay,
It becomes a problem. It's a definite problem. If you want to know a solution, just like we're doing all libraries, I'm speaking out loud, you can sit here and you can say, hey, why not do all the fields all over? Just a thought. Why not? These kids deserve it. It's a great thing. You can, well, just going back to what Dee said, you can spend countless amount of money doing a billion things. That's why we're up here trying to make a decision on what's best. Jenny has a great point. Libraries, the foundations, the great thing. You know what the baseball fields, the football fields do? Keeps the kids off the street. There's pros and cons to everything. So it's endless. That's why decisions have to be made. So it's not a debate, it's just a matter of what we decide what's best for this community. That's what we have to decide. Because there's a lot. And I don't think anybody can contradict and say, no, you're wrong, we don't need this, we don't need that. We need everything.
You guys were going around to the buildings, did anyone bring up turf fields and say what the cost was?
Not this go.
Well.
Nobody brought it up, but I wasn't even here.
You came to most of those.
I'm just using that as an example, John. I'm not debating, I'm just saying, it's endless.
Totally appreciate it.
Anything, it's what you decide you want to spend your money on.
I apologize for the disagree. We did bring up turf fields at the middle schools. We talked about putting.
Yes, we did.
We talked about putting a track around the turf. We said,
Oh, yeah,
you
okay.
can't put a track around because it would impede too much of a playable surface.
For what school?
I
wasn't
For
part of it.
OBMS in particular.
If you put a track, you would lose the football. It's physically not big enough to put a
You can't do it,
over.
you can't put a trap.
No. That was one of the options we had taken a look at during all of the meetings.
You can put a turf football field there if you want to.
Okay, but at the same, let me address that as well. We did discuss the turf field. Problem with turf field, it addressed, the main field. It doesn't address the baseball field itself. So,
Why not? You can do all of it.
well, but I'm just saying.
I'm
So-
saying.
Right.
You're right.
Yes.
Come on, you didn't hear me?
No,
When does it- What I'm trying to say is, I'm
he's-
just making the devil's
what
advocate.
we came up with was the drainage system, affects the whole facility, not just the one field. Where, I understand your point, you touch the whole ground, like, you know.
Do them, and you get better use, you don't get cancellation for games, as much, there's a lot of hope, and I'm not trying, I'm not just saying it's for everything. I'm for the libraries too. All the libraries, everybody, everything everybody said is a
Social AC.
everything everybody said makes sense.
No, to your
What I'm
point.
saying is-
To your point, I totally,
I think the cost, as cost, I would love to be considered. We brought this up 10 years ago. We wanted to be able to say-
Everything's better.
Okay. Right, but I'm saying,
all I'm saying is, we're looking at a project that was discussed for 22 months with a diverse group of people. That group of people didn't feel that the turf was.
John, I'm not debating, I'm not, you're not debating. It wasn't, yeah, I understand. I was just giving you another side.
And I appreciate that. I'm not trying to debate, I'm just saying, it goes back to what we've been saying all along. This is the committee's recommendation. It doesn't mean everybody on the committee felt the same way. It doesn't mean that you necessarily feel the same way. We still need to find what that common ground is to move forward. And that's all I think we need to accomplish. It's the biggest piece, but that's really what we're up against. If you're adamant that, and I'm not saying you are, if you were, it would be worthy of having a conversation and finding out and testing the water, just like we did, test the water before, who would vote for it, or, who's the taxpayer. We could do that stuff. We could potentially do that as a separate proposition. There are some things that some school districts do as different propositions. Turf is one of them. Turf is one of the most controversial things you're going to see in a school district. And I don't say that from my own personal experience, I just say that from historical knowledge. From the number of school districts that I've seen that have done separate propositions for turf because it is so controversial. You could do that. You could do a separate proposition. You could do a separate proposition for everything. You just need to be careful when you start taking a project and you start divvying it up. You start creating the have and the have-nots, and you start looking at it. It's just something that you have to think about. And that was one of the things I said earlier. We need to figure out exactly how we're going to move forward, if we're going forward at all.
Bond council gave a great idea about doing that, how to do that.
So anytime you want to do, bond council was talking about the possibility of doing two separate resolutions. When you do two separate resolutions.
No, it said the first one was, you put the first one in, but the second one is not, cannot be voted on unless the first one passes.
Correct. So let's continue, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Sorry.
So you have proposition one, which is.
All the absolute needs, $40 HVAC.
It's $40 million. And then somebody says, all right, there's $6 million that's not as important, we're gonna make that proposition too. Now, if it was turf fields, sometimes, and I've seen it happen, you're gonna get all the sports people come together and say, well, we want number two. Well, you can't have number two unless you vote for number one.
Right.
So now you're black. Well, you can turn around and say that, but I'm gonna turn around and say you're black. You're telling people, you're coercing them as to, if you want that, you gotta give me this.
I can tell you from history that doesn't work. Bond council can tell you what they want, and actually seeing it, and splitting the community, putting either athletics as a separate proposition.
I think you got about 100, how many people go out and vote? I don't think you really. Just John, don't. Not that many people come vote.
Yeah. For the
Not
last
doing it as a
There's not that
separate
much
bond vote.
controversy here.
You're doing it as a separate bond vote, they're only gonna come out if you're voting for a budget and then board.
You want the truth?
So if you split the vote, you're definitely.
Look how many people at the board meetings. I don't mean it disrespect, I wish there was more.
We got about 4 or 5 regulars.
No, and I appreciate the regulars that come down, it's great, but we have the same 10 people. And that's not,
10 is not.
I'm not knocking it, what I'm trying to say is, there's the people that put a lot of time and effort that care about what's going on, and that's, and not that the people don't at home. I don't want anybody offended out there with TV land, but it's just, there's more people, there's not a lot of people that get involved, that's what I'm saying. It is what it is.
And that's why you have broad shoulders. Because you guys have to carry it. I mean, the facility committee has gotten to this point, and now what do we do next? And that's really what we're at. I hear everything.
I think that, to your point earlier, John, it's better to, like, for instance, when I go into, we work for management companies, okay, taking care of their apartment complexes.
And when I'm called in for a consultation, the first thing I tell them is to come up with, every year, they need to incorporate a certain amount of money to cover unseen expenses. For instance, I mean, I work with trees. So every couple of years, you're gonna have me come in and prune these trees. But if we get a hurricane, you're SOL, because if you just put that money aside for your budget and now you've got trees falling down around your community, that money for pruning is not gonna cover removals. That's two totally different animals. So I think, to your point of coming up with ahead of time what we can see, I think then being hit with those surprises of, every community is gonna have, oh, we wanna upgrade this, and we wanna do this, and we wanna do this. But I think if you look at the future and phase it out of things that you want for your district, I think those numbers then make a little bit more sense to people. That's just what I think, is if you know your goal of what you want to upgrade, then you're not hit with, oh, in 10 years, we know this boiler system is going to have to be upgraded. Let's prepare for that, so that when the boiler system needs upgrading, we're not like, well, actually, now this project needs to be put to the back burner because this is now important. I think if we start maybe putting that,
you gotta see what's more important. No offense about the turf. I'm all for sports, 100%.
I'm not arguing.
But the problem is, I'm just saying, but the problem is, you gotta look and weigh out what's the most important thing. You have children that have, disabilities and they're in school districts, and not to bring up something that's gonna be coming down the road, but you may need central air conditioning or air conditioners in rooms, more important for all the children statistically that have allergies than maybe the kids who wanna play sports and go, like, we really gotta look at how many kids leave Connect Lot and go on to professional baseball. No offense, I'm just saying, we do have a few, but what is the realm of you're gonna spend this much money, put it all here, and there might be something medically or health-wise or more important, you gotta weigh out. Nice fields is great. Turf fields are not done at a lot of schools, and I work in a very rich community where I don't think they even have them. Cold Spring, I don't believe Cold Spring, Paul Wright, but only the high school.
Yes, but the thing with Cold Spring Harbor is they were all donated.
By the people who live there.
if we won $1 million jackpot,
I work in
not
Westland. They don't have turf, and we want to all that stuff. I just say that.
Well, because they just did all the septic systems over.
So that's the whole thing too, so now you redo septic systems, and the West Side School is all, it's all right now, it's a mess, dirt piles, everything. So it's a lot of money to put in it, then a year from now, you guys gotta rip it up, but it's a lot of money to rip up of taxpayers' money if, I love the idea of turf, if we had that extra in the
It's
budget.
a lot of money to do everything.
But you gotta prioritize.
But you gotta prioritize health-wise.
Exactly
Maybe
right.
there's a way,
That's what we're gonna
like
try
when
to
they
do.
did the high school fields and when they did the lighting, Lee, you would remember. Remember there was something when the lights were paid for through something. The lights were, I forget what it was. We paid, but I wanna say we got money back from the state from or something. Right, right.
Okay, we have 2 turf fields up there, we had two tracks put up there.
Right,
So, second track was relatively new, it was a couple years ago.
right.
So I think we did it, was a priority at the time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
To get it. And,
Maybe that's something that, in addition to this down the road, it's something that could be, they look at the future budget. It's not
But
a
how many,
terrible thing, it's
how many
nice to
school
have a
districts have
wonderful
turf
facility.
versus how many
But
don't?
it doesn't matter what
Probably
everyone else
2/3 have turf.
High school level?
How many have air conditioning? Throughout their elementaries and their, all the way through?
In the last couple of years, a lot.
Yeah. We're way behind than that.
They're adding it quickly.
So,
Where it used to be a lightning rod, now it's like, please do it.
yeah,
And it's because of these last 2 years of this crazy summer.
I'm just saying you gotta weigh out different things, that you guys, them up there have the hearts, gotta weigh out,
That it's just a matter of how we're able to
allocate money.
create those, that's why it's on like for those things, okay?
Throw it all in.
There's only so much in the
well,
pot.
do you have like a bullet list of things that you've put together that you'd like to see?
For me personally, from a
For
facility
all the
perspective,
schools?
well, you gotta remember, I sit here and the things that I brought to the conversations, the things that I brought to the conversation, but the facility side.
I'm saying all together, like these are the things that you find that are important to upgrade.
Once again, my expertise, my focus point is the facility side of things. When we start talking about air conditioning for all, that's really an instructional conversation. You know, that might be more of a special ed conversation. It's not
Well,
a
that's a
facility.
facility, that's a facility.
It's a facility after that side of the equation gets behind it and is willing to support it.
But that's like saying,
No,
let me
that-
something. If you give turf, I'm just saying, if you do turf in the high school, then wouldn't it be fair to do it at all the schools?
I'm not
just saying.
I'm not
So if
disagreeing.
you do air conditioning at the high school, shouldn't all the schools have it then? I'm just saying, what makes an 8-year-old
No.
important than a
They
7-year-old?
all get to the high school, they'll all have that opportunity.
That's right, but what I'm saying to you is, if I'm 17 and I'm
We
hot,
do have turf at the high
I'm
school
7 or
already.
8 and I'm hot, what's the difference?
No, but he's
No,
saying
she's
that,
talking about
I have
but
allergies.
he's not the one.
So I'd like to just speak quick, just to kind of, it seems like we're kind of going off topic. You were going through a list of,
The bigger ticket items.
are you going with your list? Or do you have a few more to go to? Only because,
I know, I grew up in Nassau.
because the idea of this is,
They went over all that earlier.
it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And when we started the facilities committee, please, I'm sorry. Thank you. So when we started the facilities committee, we were told that, and you just repeated this also, John, 9.5 million in our capital fund, and that has a purchase power of $28.5 million. And when we started this, I thought we were spending $28.5 million. Did I assume that wrong?
Nope, absolutely correct.
Okay, good. There are debt coming off, we were talking about that also. And you mentioned that there's, in 2021, which is, I guess, just 2 school years from now, 1.9 million in debt service coming off. And with 1.4 coming back on the revenue side. So for a net, although our budget would have to go up 1.9 or stay that additional 1.9, correct?
Stay at that.
Stay at that 1.9. But if we possibly reduce that down to 500,000, right? Because that's the net difference, 1.9 minus
Actually,
1.1.
close to 600, 585.
Okay, 600?
Yep.
I'll give you the 100 grand.
I know. I just want to be accurate.
600, you know, that's money that we can put to do those things that'll happen and anticipate. And one of the things that we wanted to do in the facilities committee is to make sure we really strengthen that structure. The buildings, make sure they're not crumbling, walls falling off. The boilers were disgusting. I know we've kind of done a lot of that already. The pool, underneath the pool, you remember seeing all this stuff? It was kind of crazy, some of the things that we saw. So, I mean, that was the whole purpose of the bond to begin with the understanding that we had to add some sexy items, we'll just call it that, so that we can sell it. Right?
So 28,
So
can I ask, I want to ask Terry a question, please. 28 billion was what you guys originally started with?
No, well, we kind of started at the
9.5
very...
million brought you up to $28 million purchasing power, is that what you just said? I just want to see if I understand you.
Yes.
So how did it go? The sexy stuff went up to $46 million?
Eileen, I have no idea.
Okay, I just wanted to know.
I don't know. I thought we were aiming for 30.
Thank
The
you.
library's come to about $12.471 million. And I think we do need open space. I do think we need collaboration. I saw it happen at the library, but you want to know what I also see? I think it's been a year since Connecticut Library opened up that opening. I don't see it utilized. I'm not seeing it utilized.
They don't have curriculum to teach though, so we're going to compare apples and oranges.
Okay, that's fine.
Because when you're talking about school, and I'm going to take offense actually at calling things pretty or sexy, because what we're seeing is not needed are the programmatic changes. And I have a problem with that, because I sat on that committee and I went through all the buildings and I listened to my administrators and I listened to my teachers, and I meet with teachers frequently on this, and they say, Linda, we can't do the job because of what our facility is like. So when you look at form and function, and you look at curriculum, and you look at children,
But we have to look at safety first.
you're absolutely correct, which is why the buildings and the facilities and the infrastructure are the largest part of this, and then you start looking at programmatic
It's
things.
not the largest part though.
How is that not true?
If you took out, I won't use Terry's word, because apparently you don't like that one, but if you took out just the boilers and just the repairs that Terry was just speaking about, it is less than the libraries, the auditoriums, the playgrounds, and all the other things that are not repairs.
And part of that is because the district has been very smart in the
However,
last
but
few
you
years
just
to put
said-
$2.5 million into infrastructure.
But what you just said was that it is not as much, so that's not true. That's
Oh,
what
wait,
I'm
I'm
pointing out.
just stepping here
The
because
repairs are less than
I'm just
the
gonna
other
go to
things.
OBN because that's the first page. So the vinyl asbestos.
My first page is idle out. That's okay.
Well, I'm looking at this one.
I looked at the total.
It was 253,000.
What?
For the abatement. It was 32,000, just round through. It was pipe replacement was $1.1 million. Auditorium reconstruction is $1.9 million. The refurbishment of the library, and then his replacement of existing underground electric service. There's hazard reconstruction. That's $1.1.
Repairs came to $17,940,570 something dollars. Those were the repairs only. Everything else
For
for the entire $50 million, 46 something million dollars.
I have to have a registration.
So we, I just want to understand.
We're at 46,
We're
1
at
million.
28 million when we started, now we're at.
Yes, and that's
No,
because.
that was the goal, and I
Goal, that's
understand.
what I'm asking.
Initial goal.
I wasn't on the committee, I'm asking the goal.
However, John said,
Wait, so Terry was speaking, I'd like to hear the rest of what Terry said, we let everybody else speak.
because money came off of the,
No, I don't want to go back.
I just
I just want to know what it went from 28 to.
No, our goal was to spend the 28 million. That's what I said. The goal was us to, we had the 9.5, the goal was us to spend the 28 million
initially.
initially.
Can I just read to that?
And we did actually already spend money because of the 2.5 million put into capital,
We definitely.
because they were more,
And that was taken off.
Yes.
and that was taken off.
So can I just speak, I don't want to interrupt, but we did start the project with 9.5 capital reserve and a 28.5 goal. That was absolutely the case.
You still got 10 million according to what I.
So that was the goal. Last December, bond council came in and they worked with Sharon and they were looking at the cash flow and they were looking at the debt service schedule. And they at that point made a recommendation that the board or the community or the budget could support a $50 million project without an increase to the taxpayers. At that point, we went back to the facility committee and all items that were priority 1 remained, and then we looked at all the priority 2s, and the vast majority of them were able to slide into the priority 1. That's how we arrived at it. There's no doubt, when we started the project 2 years ago,
Supposed to be 28 now.
that was what we were looking at.
There's
And then
still
with the advice of,
I understand. I'm just looking at what we spent, that's why I'm just asking.
No, I'm not, it's not have to get it.
Yeah, I'm going,
I didn't know that part.
This one is
Still
for
cost.
taxpayer.
It eventually costs, everything eventually doesn't want to, I don't see how this.
You've already paid for it. You've already paid for it.
It's already paid for.
Unfortunately, the way the governor has the formula in the state education department,
Yes.
it now penalizes you, and you have to slide that debt over going forward, and you don't have to pay cans. Your budget to budget is in trouble.
And then plus we can take out $2.5 million in capital, which is savings in the budget.
Are we supposed to use the 46 million? Is that the best thing for us? Is that what you want? That was 28 the goal that we said, what was that the best? But what are we getting the most for? We spent 50 million, is that what you're saying? I just want to understand a little better.
We need to replace the debt service. That's
What happens is that, so when you've got a budget, what is our budget currently at? 180,
92, I have like
192? 192,
million.
What's the best for us?
$192 million, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was saying that right. $192 million. Let's say 2.5 million of that, so what, we can't bring our budget line, that I think this is what's being said. We can't bring our budget from 191 to 189 without penalty from the governor. Is that what you're saying?
Based on your formula, there's a formula that goes involved. And if you're reducing your yearly budget, your line items, you have to make that up somewhere.
So you've got to keep it at 191.
So you're never gonna get tax money back, is what she's saying.
So
No refunds.
what's the best way?
Mark, did you ask where the $9.5 million came from?
No.
Oh.
Okay, wait, you tell me to ask. Go ahead. I'm learning.
It was moved.
I'm just trying to figure things
It
out.
was excess overtaxing and underspending. And that's where we were able to put that 9.5 million in that account.
Overtaxed for years.
Okay,
But we can't bring down the budget.
okay. So what is against you in tax basically that?
You know, I gotta tell you, I'm sitting here as a patient all night, but I gotta tell you all, okay, this is lunacy, okay? Because you're throwing numbers, you're talking, you're steady spinning, okay? The bottom line is, the professionals that you pay a lot of money to in this district.
What's the best number for us to spend?
And
is what I'm trying to
Sharon
ask.
have
Tony, don't get loud,
have
please.
put together,
Be loud.
okay, I'm not yelling, put
Don't yell loud.
together, okay, a bond after 22 months of people working on it, okay? And we're gonna sit here and have people from the audience nitpick, okay,
She was on
give
the
out
facilities
full,
committee,
I
just
know
so
she
you
is,
know.
I know she was, okay? She doesn't like how it ended up, so now she's
got a lot of good
not
numbers.
happy
We're
about
not
it.
saying-
My point is, let me tell you folks, I've been to tons of different school board meetings, I've been involved in education a long time, and nowhere else would they be sitting here, as somebody said before, debating, okay, about something that doesn't add any more taxation to the people who are already paying taxes. It doesn't happen. This is lunacy. I'm gonna say goodnight on that end. You guys, God bless you.
Overpay 10 million.
Okay?
Good night, Tony.
Because it basically comes down, okay, to pennies that you're debating here for 2.5 hours.
I was
Pennies.
learning, I wasn't debating.
I understand.
Listening and learning.
Pennies is what you're talking about.
How many classes go in the library?
I'm not blaming you, Mark. I'm saying you're discussing and
Can we add more
debating.
classes going in so we should add
That's
collaboration?
what because she's come up, and I don't care what she said,
That would help
she's got an
collaboration
attitude,
and openness.
she's got an action line, okay, you have an agenda. Yes, you do.
I don't think so.
I don't
I
have an
definitely
agenda.
think she does.
I don't think so.
Okay, that's fine, you keep
Kelly's
listening.
very
She has an
intelligent. I don't think
agenda,
she is.
okay?
I don't think
And people who are experts are trying to
Kelly's an
answer.
expert. She's an
okay?
actuary.
She's not an expert,
She
okay? She's
is.
not getting paid by the district. She thinks she's an expert. She's
Why
not
am
an
I being
expert.
attacked? I am
She's not an
saying that
expert.
That's what I'm
She's not an expert. It's lunacy that you're having this discussion, that it continues to go on.
Do not close the door, do not close the door.
Okay, it's
This gentleman
lunacy.
just
yelling at me.
I'm telling you my opinion. You give your opinion, I'm expressing
I'm
my
at the
opinion.
microphone giving my opinion the way that an organized meeting works.
Oh my God.
I just really wanted to ask a question. What's the best amount of this? I don't know. So you telling me it's best for us to spend?
My concern was putting it all in one big full glass. That was my concern.
Well, I'm asking you two gentlemen, since you two are the run the
So I can't
Just
give
ask me
you,
questions, is that okay?
Thank you,
What,
Terry.
what are we looking to spend? What would be best for the district?
I can't
Would
give
it be
you,
best for the district to spend 28 million, or would it be best for us to spend, I just want to know.
I can't give you an absolute. What I can tell you is, when you use capital funds, when you do it through the approved process, you can maximize your state aid. That's important. I don't want to have to do a project of, $50,000, $100,000 here, there, and wherever, if I can maximize state aid. All the projects that I brought forth, with the one exception of the maintenance building, would qualify for state aid. I think it's important. That being said, I can't speak to the appetite of the board or the community to what size project they should do. I can't do that.
When does it end at the state aid stuff? What number does it end at? You're telling me 46 million, we're still getting state aid at that point?
Yeah, so
Correct.
So we can spend 100 million and still get the same 67% fitted?
That's what I want.
As long as it's on a,
Let's put 100 million on.
I'm just.
well, that would be an increase in cost of the tax.
That would mean, so where is the number stop, where it's not?
The 50 million they were talking about is the stop, where it's not an addition.
That's
to
what I'm
the
trying to
tax.
find.
Right up to that.
So at that
Thank
point, you're getting your maximum spending power
We're getting somewhere.
versus
So
anything
50
less.
million, we're
Stay at
getting,
the
I'm not.
$9 million budget that we have
And
now.
it's no additional
No
cost
additional cost.
to the
That's what I'm
taxpayers
looking
in this community.
Well, it's the same cost. The
What's your
budget line
name?
is $9 million,
Right.
it's gonna stay $9 million consistent.
I would just like to interject that, I don't know if everybody is aware, but they are looking to increase the taxes in the town of Islip. They're proposing a 5.3% base. So I think for me as a selling point to the community, as a taxpayer, if you spent the extra money to have a separate vote on it, and I heard that there's no increase in my taxes after my taxes were just increased, my vote's going right to yes. Good for the kids, great. No increase in my taxes. So I think that's something to bear in mind. I know you're wondering whether you should spend this
Well, that's
extra
why I
money
wanted
on
to
a
get it
separate
out.
vote.
Right.
I think it's worth it if, in lieu, or,
In 2023, what would that go down to, John? 1.9 million instead of the 9 million that we have budgeted there now?
I'm sorry, so 2022, 23, we have an additional $2.3 million of debt service. 23, 24, you have an additional.
When does it go down to the 1.9? Remember you showed me earlier?
That's 2021.
2021. So instead of the $9 million budget line, if we don't do anything, just so I can explain to you, if we don't do anything, say we threw this bond out, which I don't recommend, but say we threw the bond out, and we don't do anything, in 2021, our $9 million budget item goes down to $1.9 million. So that's what I'm asking.
No, when the capital reserve,
No,
so
so
9.3 is the capital reserve.
we currently have debt service embedded in the budget at a little over $9 million.
Right, so that's what I'm asking.
In 2021, 1.9 of that would come from.
When does it zero out? That's what I'm asking. Or not zero out, lower down to like $1 million. We looked at that earlier.
So 24, 25
24, 25.
would be
So
the
the
last.
$9 million budget would now be decreased by $8 million. If we did nothing, that's what I'm saying.
Correct.
So, okay.
And at some point,
That's,
in those years, 22, 23,
things are gonna break,
24,
things are gonna
24,
need.
We're gonna need stuff done.
bond council and
I'm
Sharon,
just pointing out
I'm
the
sure,
other.
totally agree. Somebody's gonna turn around and say, you're gonna have to take a look at filling the gap, your revenue side, and look at that. Not to say you're gonna have to do a project, but you should look at it and be aware of it, because there is a revenue implication to
Well,
everything.
just as I explained to you earlier, it's like an accountant would tell you, and we talked about this, now you can't take off more than $10,000 for your taxes. So a lot of people keep a mortgage so that they can get the tax break. And an accountant would say, okay, you get a tax break, $100, we're getting 67 back to state aid. You get a tax break of 67, you're still paying $33. So that's the other side of the coin. So you may see it that way, but a lot of people do see it the other way. So that's where we, as a board, we have to balance.
John Doyle, you're shaking your head.
As long as you don't spend, that's why we're at 46 to 47, it's not gonna cost additional funds to the taxpayer.
Right, it's the $9 million, right.
Yeah.
That's already
That's
decided.
That's already budgeted.
But still, the taxpayer still doesn't have to pay 33 cents on the dollar in the tax side. That's already equated, it's already accounted for in the entire package.
That is correct.
Right, but if we did nothing, that would go down, eventually it would go down, that's what I'm trying to explain. I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate.
So it's $6 million, you're gonna have to still never
$6 million of revenue will also go down, so it's.
We also run into problems in the school, we have to fix these.
Correct.
Well, I didn't say that. I'm playing devil's advocate, I didn't say whether it's right, wrong, or different. I'm not arguing, I'm not debating, I'm
And
just
then according
saying.
to John,
If you guys have $46 million, am I right? Is this what
I
you
got it in
have?
my backpack.
I'm just trying to follow
We
along.
have
so-
been-
I'm not good at math, I'm good at a lot of things, but math
It's
is
not,
my
it's
best.
not actual 46 million, it's
It's
spent.
available.
So what I wanna know is, this, I'm reading all this, right? And there are things in here that, I'm a taxpayer, lived here a long time, and I wanna know why I would vote for a lot of these things over things that aren't on here that I want on here. So now the question is, the question is, like I want,
Central AC?
I want central AC, I'm not trying to, I want
You just gotta do
better
it.
security, but I want for a lot of people, better things too. And some of these things sound perfect and sound sound to do. Like the average person would say, hey, this needs to be done, 100%. And then there are some things that are like, this can wait a year. It's like me fixing my house. I'm not gonna do everything at one time that you do what needs to be done over what you want to be done. So what I'm saying is, if there's other things that parents, community members want that are necessary, they are needs, they're not just wants, they're needs, but they're not on this list, I wanna know, how do you get it out of that money? Or this is the question, if there's 46 million, right, to spend, but that's allocated for this, okay, no problem. Is there more money to be spent on, hey, we want to get Central AC, hey, we want better security, we want extra security guards, we want this one, and that's a necessity in today's climate. Can we get it, or does that come out of the 46 million?
No, that would
Okay, so you're talking about two different buckets of money, because you're talking about operational money versus capital project money. So when you talk about security guards and you talk about additional personnel, that's operational money, so we're not even gonna touch that.
But doors are,
Doors we pay
Doors?
for. We pay.
I'm not saying that, I'm saying doors would be in this budget.
Sure,
not
doors
that.
would be in that budget, AC district-wide would be in that budget. So
Would be in this, correct?
would be in a capital fund, it's not currently sitting in this $46 million proposal.
Right, so my question to you is, for people like myself, and many others that I've spoken to, because I came and brought this up last year,
Right.
how do you bring that onto here?
Let me
How
ask
do you bring a vote for other people?
Wait a second.
Maybe they want that over a lot of things that are on here.
If you heard,
It's already done.
if you heard,
No, you,
if you heard what John had said, in 2001, money starts coming off. 21, 2020, 2022, 2023. Money keeps coming off. So what I'm hearing is, what's suggested with bond council is to form another bond,
we can say yes to
right? And at that point, that could be the next step. But, the things that have been here, a lot of things that you might think that are not necessary.
I think there are many things that are necessary, I'm reading, but I also think that you could definitely skim some off and choose to do these at a later date, because they're not as prevalent right now. They're not something that is a necessity right this minute versus some things like, I understand the whole thing with air conditioning, like people don't understand it, but I walked around on Cockman Middle School during the day of the, what was it, when you go in and pick it
Parent teaching conference.
No, it was before school started.
Orientation.
The orientation day, and the principal couldn't even talk to the group of people because he was sweating. The whole room was sweltering. I can't think that my daughter and many others are going to be sitting in that auditorium for things, in that gym, in those hallways.
Mount Cockman Middle School.
Yes.
Not Cherokee.
No, Mount Cockman Middle School. My daughter's Mount Cockman Middle School.
No, you said Cherokee.
HVAC was
Well,
on.
Cherokee needs to be done too, that's all I'm saying.
It is. We're air conditioning the middle school, all-purpose rooms. The proposition goes through, the libraries will be air conditioned.
Okay, but I'm
We're air
not,
conditioning the high school
can
gym.
someone please explain to me why I'm choosing one room over the other? It's kind of like saying I have to get an air conditioner for my son if he has an allergy, and the air conditioner gets a name on him, and it goes to all his classrooms. So man, those 24 kids are so lucky that they got him in their class. But what about the other 100 kids in that grade level? That's so unfair. I can't even tell you how, it just makes no sense to me in today's
I
day.
think it's about answering.
Well, okay,
Well, if you look at rough numbers, and if you just look at roughly 800 rooms in the district, you're looking at $65 million to air conditioning the classrooms.
With Douglas, with the
You
new,
can't use ductless.
and what about,
You can't use ductless splits because they don't provide the mechanical transfer ventilation.
okay, and what about all these different, I know that my police department just we got money from the government.
Different animal.
No, I understand, but right now, they are getting money from the government.
Public schools.
But that's our state aid, that's the 67%.
We get
7%. We can't get that out of 67%.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, out of 67%, you're telling me that a lot of these floors need to be redone. You're redoing floors and this and that, and some of these, I'm pretty sure don't absolutely need it right now, but it's something to spend the money.
No, it's a little bit more than that. You look at this floor, it's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Good condition. At any point in the next 5 years, if 1 or 2 tiles come up, we're into repairing that section for $3,000. 2 or 3 tiles. To replace the entire floor, baiting and everything else, is substantially better. It's, what is it to do with,
The tiles that they're replacing on
$12
this
square
list
foot, so
are
it's-
asbestos, they're all asbestos.
Yeah, they
So
are.
it's $10,000 to do a room, which we get state aid on, which costs us $3,000.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is it's used as but if you're looking at this, you're telling me that everything on here is more important than something that health-wise is better for our children going forward.
And I would
I mean, it's
never,
better for our buildings, because if you got mold in buildings, what better than having air conditioning and keeping the building at a cooler? Am I wrong? I mean, where do you show with mold?
A
That's,
little bit.
because when we put air conditioning in my basement, we cleared up a lot of issues there. A lot.
Probably undersize the system and run it 24/7, so it acts as a dehumidification system, and it's probably not sized for the size of the house. So you did things to cheat there a little bit. We in a public
And
school,
you can use air filters now in the new ventilations.
and we are, we've been doing that all along.
But what I'm saying to you is, if you're gonna do all these other things, like, and I'm not taking away again from the third, but I'm saying, and I'm big on sports, like I'm saying,
It's not
some
even in here.
things, no, but some things are worth it to do, and they make the school district look better, but it doesn't actually help the children, like, help them. It's more of a want than a need. And I
It's a
think some of the
debate
stuff in
everything's
here,
saying, just so
I
you know.
think some of the things in here could have been shaved off a little bit to look into, like I said, fixing other things that are. I was in the building, it's awful. I was there recently.
I've been in the buildings for years. Wait, at what point there was no air conditioning in the high school auditorium?
Well,
People were passing out.
Oh, it's like, yeah, like kids were throwing up at the orientation, they were throwing up in the bathroom. At what point does someone say something?
It's a process.
Well, HVAC is on these windows.
You
But
know,
I'm saying
it is
for
a
all.
process.
Well, I think it's something that you gotta look into with everything on here. Again, I'm not in your guys' shoes, but, so I would have to look at every little thing, and I don't have that right now to do. But if you guys are looking at all this, everything here, there's gotta be stuff that you could shave off to do stuff that is more necessary. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but all the shaving is not gonna come to 65 million to HVAC.
So maybe we.
But if you're saying that on top of middle school is already in here, it's hard for me to believe it's $65 million if there's
Look at
schools
the trying
already
to do
in
the
here.
bigger.
It's the LGI. It's not the LGI, it's the LGI.
The LGI.
Oh, okay. So then technically, on top of middle school is not there.
Because you mentioned the auditorium, so I said that's on the list.
Yeah.
If I missed,
Okay, no, the whole school. I mean,
No,
you walk around the hallways and you're passing out. You walk into the science room, you're in like a glory, it's probably your favorite class.
I remember, again, when my children were in the in the elementary level, the atrium seemed to be, and Deidre, you could speak to this as well. The buildings were hot. Where the kids go, they were either the lunchroom or the atrium on those hot days. They were taken off the second floor and put into the areas that had the cooling system and everything else like that. So the kids on those very hot days, I mean, I don't know if you still do that now.
No, it's not done at our elementary.
The kids do, I mean, you remember those times.
It's not done at our
The
elementary.
kids, they get moved.
In that, on those two really hot days in September, she did.
My daughter was in an extremely hot classroom last year, I'm positive of it. And they were, not everybody's moved. I mean, it is what it is, you know, they can't move everybody, 600 kids in school, I mean, you know. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just saying that there has to be, at some point, they have to look at some of the other things on here, because some of it is definitely things that have to be done, but they don't need to be done this year.
Well, just so you know, because I think you missed the beginning of the meeting, for 22 months, the Facilities Advisory Committee met together. They walked through all the buildings, they came up with lists of things that were thrown away, that not everybody could agree on were necessary to be done. This is the finalized list that the committee came with to send to the board, for the board to look at and say, okay, this is what we have decided over 22 months of working together is the most important things to get done in this
And I don't
funding.
know how
in this
they,
funding round.
I don't know how they walked through those hallways and didn't think of the children who, we have way more now than we ever had before, who have special needs, who have allergies, who have all sorts of other issues that have not, that when I was in school, you didn't hear about, but now you do hear about. They do better, it is a fact that kids do better academically when they're not passing out in class and in the nurse's office. And last year, there were more children in our elementary school in the nurse's office than ever before. I was told that by a nurse. I was there almost every day.
That's what happened with me. when I was younger. It was too hot.
No, it's not more.
I'm trying.
Yes, but I'm just saying, it's something that
I
needs
get
to
it,
be.
I'm just trying to make sure
If
the
he,
library.
this is, I mean, I don't know how everybody got this with the, I understand what you're saying, but I guess it's what people felt was necessary. If I had been on that board, I would have felt that was more
I
necessary.
kind of agree.
So it
You know,
depends.
as someone who, as someone who sat on this committee, there was a lot of things thrown in our direction. And there was, for me, I'm only gonna speak for myself and how I decided on things and how I thought things were appropriate is, okay, AC, yes, I know it's in demand, but, okay, are we using it maybe 20 days? As opposed to something that we can
Costs
use
go
all.
up too when you use air conditioning. That's why.
Yeah, as opposed to something that we can use all year round. So it's a lot, we were facing a lot of challenges on what to keep on, what to keep off, what's effective long-term, what's only just a temporary fix, you know, just for the few days out of the year, you know, so it's.
No, I understand, but
Yeah.
I look at, and I've had this discussion last year too. I don't just look at putting air conditioners in or putting central air as something that is it is cost effective in different ways. It's also, like I said, the taxpayers pay the money for their children to get, and hopefully for their communities to get the best for the buck.
Right.
I would hope that the things that we want, that we feel are necessary for the kids, because we see what it's doing to them, is something that would be a realistic, you know, something that's realistic to look into. Not some of the things, like you were saying about just using the floors as a, you know, as an example. If the floors look good and they don't need to be done right now, you don't have any loose tiles, I'd rather wait until the year that the tiles are getting bad to redo them. It's like anything else in a regular home or a regular facility where you worry about things. No, I'm just saying, it is things that you would worry about. Maybe there are asbestos, we gotta get them out just for health reasons. But I'm saying, I'm sure there are things, using shields, using this, using that, that are not necessary versus if you have 15 kids in the nurse's office every day at every school, kids going home sick, it's something that we need to address. And the other issue on that is, I've said it, you cannot tell me that your schools are secure when you have regular air conditioners in windows. There is nobody who's gonna tell me today that because when an air conditioner is in a window, we are secure. You know why I know that? Because we've had many, many burglaries and robberies in schools and home facilities, people getting in vandalizing just from pushing the air conditioning units in. People tell you it can't be done, it can be done. So those units are good on maybe second floor. But on those first floor classrooms, they are not secure. That is actually a security breach when you have those in. So it is something to look into. Excuse me? Oh, listen, I don't know who did the facility in my elementary school, but they made a real big error in putting a security window in an admin office after you get into a man trap. I never saw anything like that in my life. I've seen it at the window before you get in the man trap, before you get in the school. I've never seen a security guard that's to sit in the admin office with a bunch of admin people and stand there all day until somebody comes through that window and you're already in the school. It's a little, so no offense, but the way things are done in schools, they're not really done speaking to the people about security wise, because if it was, that's not security. No, that's not. Having the window inside the man trap, I mean, if that's a building thing and they were redoing building and fixing building things, that should have been one of the first things they fixed. Putting it inside an elementary admin office, I like it in Rock Top in the middle school, it's on the outside of the man trap.
Jax, we have to make a decision. Jackie.
No,
Call her
Jax.
Jax. All right, so Linda, where are we at now? What is it we have to think about?
Okay, so, pick a number, okay? At this point, in order to move forward with a vote in February, we need to have a solid,
Board consensus.
I need board consensus, correct, on what pieces of the
We
project.
can't do anything tonight anyway, so we want to just be great.
There's a lot of information I have to digest before I make a decision.
This is actually going on the next board meeting, am I correct?
The only meeting in December will be the meeting that we set the final proposal and proposition.
So wait a minute, so next,
You can have a discussion with public in November, and then we have to finalize it. In order to have the February 5th vote that we had originally discussed, you would have to put the final proposition on the December meeting.
Oh, but I think it was November.
45 days. 45
All right, so we got to December.
Oh, I thought it was November. So today is,
Yes, you can.
yeah,
that, but then you would finalize it and we would put the proposition on the December agenda.
all right, so basically what I really want to accomplish today is, are we splitting the vote? I mean, excuse me,
We have to
splitting,
talk about
we have to speak about that publicly, so are we splitting? Yes.
I'm not ready to talk about that tonight. Tonight I thought it was an informational meeting, so I got a lot of information that I want to go back and look through and review. No, tonight I got a lot of information. I'm not ready to vote on whether I'm going to split the
But
vote
what
or
she's
not.
saying, what I understand is, it's something we're supposed to talk about. I thought we were supposed to.
No, because we spoke in public.
It's public. So
So this, basically the public is,
Well,
people.
if they come back to the next meeting.
This was just an informational meeting, I was told. That's what it says on the
Are we gonna,
agenda.
so I have to do the secret process for you guys. You have to adopt the secret process before you adopt the dollar amount.
We did that the last
we
meeting.
did
No,
that.
you just gave me authorization to proceed, so my question to you is, we're not gonna add any new projects to this, correct?
Correct.
I don't.
I don't know.
I wanted,
So then I'm gonna hold off on the secret. Because if we're gonna add new projects.
I don't know, I want to listen, review, and.
Okay, so
I'm not making any decisions tonight. I didn't come here planning to make a decision tonight. I came here planning to get information.
so at the
You weren't
next,
even here. Have you missed the whole deal?
I got it on tape, and I'll sit and review my tape 14 times.
Oh, makes sense.
Right.
all right, so at the next board meeting, what I was hoping to accomplish at this board meeting is that we would be 90% closer to putting something together. At the next board meeting, I apologize, I thought next week was okay, so it's actually December. I am feeling we're not any closer
I think we're
to,
So am I just want to review my information.
all right, so so I'm gonna ask now. What are you looking to achieve at the next board meeting so that we can finalize on the December meeting for a vote?
What are
So-
you looking to achieve?
No, I already know what I want, I'm asking you
I
guys.
don't know what you want. I don't know what I want, I just said that.
Okay, all right, so you want my opinion? My opinion is not to split the bond, keep it as a bond as the whole. Keep every item on the bond, that is my opinion. So I don't know if we are there yet for the next meeting. What I'm hoping that would have been accomplished today is that we would have been 90% there. So at the next
I didn't
meeting.
know that's what you were hoping, you didn't tell me that.
I think, I did kind of said that in the emails, but, I was hoping that we would get a little bit closer.
Talk about it together.
Yeah,
No,
I
we
didn't get
talked,
that.
no,
Well,
it's not
the
executive
next
session.
board
Doesn't
meeting,
make a difference.
I can tell you right now, I'm satisfied with the way it is. I've been on that committee, I've sat through the committee, I listened to everybody.
What does the public think? It's not what we're supposed to ask them.
Well, next week, we're going to, the next board meeting, where we discuss this once again in public.
Perfect.
And then.
But this is not gonna be another 3 hours. We started at 7 o'clock, and it's 10:30 right now. A little bit past 10:40.
9:40.
Oh, it's 9:40? Oh, you better go change that clock. All right, so we here 2 hours and 40
No,
minutes.
the clock is right.
The clock says 9:40.
No, it says
Oh, I'm
9:40.
sorry. That's what happened.
Linda, can you loan her your glasses?
Okay, all right. What I was hoping to achieve today is, are we coming to a decision if we're splitting the bond? Are we keeping the bond as a whole? So I'm not even thinking we're anywhere closer to that. I can say for myself, I want the bond together. I don't want to
Well, the
split.
recommendation from what I heard was, if you try to do it any other way, it's kind of tricky.
Exactly.
It's tricky in public, which I don't want to do. So, you know.
So you two have your mind made up.
Well, I just heard what he just said.
No, I'm asking. I'm
Based on
My
what-
mind is, yes, my mind is made up.
Based on what he said.
My mind is made up.
I'm
Who said that?
asking. My mind's not made up yet, so that's what I'm asking. That's it.
All right, so
Set it correct.
Do I, what, splitting it?
Yes.
Well,
Don't get, I'm just
Mr.
curious.
Grillo.
it's not a concern of mine, I do want to speak for 2 seconds.
Yes,
Because
please.
Terry brought up a word, and I'm glad Ms. Adams spoke to it. Sexy, I believe. I felt offended, and thank you. You know, this started with the principals, before it even got to us. The people in the trenches, they went to the people in their buildings. They came with us, and then we walked around. We created this. I don't see any sexy items on this. I see needs that make this community, this school district, a better place for the kids involved. every item on there, not from safety to.
I'm gonna stick up with Terry
You know.
here. I think the word she used was just semantics. I don't think she meant it that way.
I
No,
understand.
we talked about how he couldn't just
I'm
fix
not-
it.
Can you let him finish,
I
let him
understand
finish?
it's 9:40 is late. My big point was, this is not, the sexy got on my nerves. I understand.
Sorry.
I understand. No, I understand. Listen, Terry was there, so I know she didn't mean it that way. I understand. But it did strike a little quick. I just look at that list and I heard this conversation. And I'm glad you're addressing it, to feel the background behind it. And she's over there. You know, these are improvements that are needed. You know, from the auditorium, I mean, the thing is the same since I graduated. You know, these things need to be done. The community deserves it. Yeah, there were plenty of other things. We crossed off
We
thousands
did a
of things.
lot of
I mean, there are
cross.
things we crossed off that, you know, that we didn't address. And I'm sorry you weren't part of that. You know,
I wasn't on the board then.
I understand.
But you had the opportunity to be on the
and
facility
same-
committee.
right.
You're right, but I had a lot of other things that I was
So-
on too.
Okay, so I made the
that
time.
was-
Listen, we
I
can
made
go
the
back
time.
and forth on that one.
Right,
You know, the same thing I just said, she did the same opportunity. So I just want to really hone in, I really think we made a great list. Is it the world's greatest list for your needs? I don't know. Is it the greatest list for her needs? I don't know. But we did a lot of work. We sat down for hours and really looked into these and we discussed every one of them. And I
We walked
feel,
through every building.
you know,
Yes.
it really,
Who did that?
Well, let her finish, you just told me to let her.
Well, I was right here.
Well, I was,
I
I
didn't read it.
know, but I wanna hear it.
How did you get to be in that unit?
Wait, just let him finish, please, let him finish. I wouldn't allow this gentleman to speak, because he, like me, was there day one on this committee. He put a lot of time and effort, made a lot of decision on this committee, so please, sir, please finish.
so.
I don't think she heard you say that it's not perfect, and we knew it wasn't perfect.
Yeah, I mean.
But we did the best that we could.
We did, and I just really, I think every item on that is just a great improvement and a need. It meets the needs that was started from the principals and staff in the buildings to, you know, structural stuff. You know, that's all.
Am I wrong in saying the longer we need to make a decision, we'll miss that February deadline?
That is correct.
But who made that deadline, and can I ask you why why it can't be pushed off a week or 2 weeks? Like, is that a big difference?
Just
Again,
said 45 days.
right, so 45 days, if we make the decision, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. If we make the decision January 1st, it's 45 days from January 1st. If we make the decision February 1st. Am I correct, Linda?
It's not that easy, because what has to happen is, when the board finalizes that this is a project that we are going to do, then John, and myself are going to be in this community, walking people through the building, showing everybody what's going on. We're going to publicize it, we're going to do the PR, and we're going to put together the proposals that go on the ballot.
So it's a big decision.
It's a big decision, and
So I don't want to be rushed.
well, the truth is that, you know, there's only a few of the people who were at the very beginning. There was a help wanted ad that was sent out in January 2017, where we asked people to be part of 5 different things in the community. We asked them to be part of the 4 pillar committees and the facilities advisory committee, which was something that the board asked us to do in fall of 2016. And the people that are here tonight, and there's 5 or 6 of them, and I thank you for the service that you've done to the district, because really, for 22 months, they've been discussing, they've been vetting, they've been talking, they've been debating, and they have been representing the community, from teachers, administrators, to parents, to people who don't have children in the district, who are here because they're architects and wanted to be part of the process. So, as a board, the truth of the matter is, you put together board committees. And I'm going to say this out loud. There are other times that board committees have met for months, for hours and hours on end, and the board has said, no, we're not going to go forward with your recommendations. And that becomes very dispiriting to the people who are willing to put their time, effort, and energy in it. So the truth is, what was great about all 4 of the pillar committees is they came in front of the board, they proposed everything that they asked to propose, the board said yes to everything, and we moved all those processes forward. The Facilities Advisory Committee met for 22 months, representing the community.
worked hard hours walking through buildings and then debating, and there were some really rough nights in this room where they debated things over and over again and got very heated over the things that we finalized on this agenda. So, you know, I thank you all for the service that you've done, but I think as the board, you have to look and say, these folks represented the community, and they did their due diligence, and the project that they've come up with is never going to be perfect, because there's no such thing. You know, you can't change everything all the time, but the work that they've done is really looking at all of our students and all of our facilities and trying to make them the best that they can be with the money that we were allocated. So, you know, we talk about not making a decision, but the truth is these folks made the decision for us, and they were here tonight to help you answer any questions that you had about moving forward with their project. You know, we had multiple administrators, we have multiple teachers, we have multiple members of the community. We invited the members of the community to come to that. And so, you know, that this was the discussion to really finalize so that the board can so now we can go publicize, because you know what, Mark said it earlier, there's 20 people here. And we have 28,000 people in this district. So we need to get that word out to everybody about all these projects that we want to get done for our children, for our facilities, to make them the best for our community. And that's where we are right now. That's why this meeting was put together, so that the board could ask questions of the folks who gave their time, and also to other community residents who are interested in hearing where we were. Honestly, if we, you know, yes, the more we delay this, the more likely that we are not going to get the word out to the folks to come and walk through the buildings. But when you say, this is the project, take this one line off, or add this one thing because it's something that you all missed in your walkthroughs, but that's what this tonight was really for.
That's what I'm
I ask questions.
So if there's a couple of changes, it's not the end of the world. Some people have to understand that things have changed a little bit. It's not the end of the world. I know you want it this way, this is what you want.
Well, no, I'm not saying that at all.
You know what?
I'm saying is I don't think there's anything in here that are, I think this, you know.
I agree, that's why I said
Maybe
to
the
you,
word
there's a
should be
million.
wants and needs, maybe actually the word, who knows, it's semantics as
What
far
I'm
as.
saying is,
It's not something
I don't
I'm
even-
hung up on.
I think
That
it's
word
great.
is not something
Thank
I'm
you for
gonna-
everything you did.
I'm gonna just put it out there, John, over the last several months, how many presentations have you made about this bond? How many times have we discussed this bond? From July. So at this point, at the board level. So at this point in time, we are in November, and we still have questions that could have been asked prior in the last 4 or 5 months that John has actually addressed this.
Bring up my questions.
So then you should be 90% of the way there, so that on our next meeting on Tuesday, this is not going to be a 3-hour discussion.
Wait, do you want me to be 90% of the way there to what you want, or 90% of the way there to what I think we should do?
All right.
Because that might be two
Because
different things, I'm not really sure.
you're saying
I
today,
don't know if you just heard
you're
what I just
saying
said.
today, oh, I thought today was only informational.
That's correct.
So
That's what it
in,
says on the board docs.
okay, so in the months coming leading to here,
Did you just hear what I just said? We could be 90% of the way, both of us, but we could be 90% of the way in two different directions. I don't know. I don't know.
all right,
I would like to review the tapes, I would like to review what was said tonight. There was a lot of good information by a lot of people here, and I'd like to think about it. I don't just.
all right, okay, so,
Can I just say something? Once it's approved,
If you want me to vote tonight, it's not gonna happen. I'm not
what?
gonna-
nobody's asking you to do
Once
that.
it's approved, you have to understand, they have to go to the civics also. I mean, our staff goes to the civic meetings. They have to schedule that in before February. I don't even know if these civics have meetings in January because of the holiday. You know, we don't know that. So there's a lot going into it. They go around all over.
Right, so what I'm saying is, if you miss a day or two,
Linda.
maybe skip a day or two, I don't understand why that's a problem.
I just want to put something,
Wait, just John, before you continue, John, I just want to get an idea, what is happening at the next meeting? At the next meeting, what is it that you're looking to achieve?
I don't know, you mentioned
What do you want
agenda.
to do?
All right, so we're gonna, all right, so I'm saying to the board right now, excuse me, I'm saying to the board right now that I'd like to have a decision on this next meeting. I hear talks about splitting the bond. If you're gonna talk about splitting the bond, that's another 3-hour conversation, because we're
I
gonna
did
get.
bring that up at the last meeting.
Can I
Nobody
finish?
wanted to
Can I finish?
discuss it.
Then we're
Well,
gonna,
I
can I
just
finish?
think you did.
Can I finish? Then we're gonna get into debate
Yes,
of
right.
what is considered a want, what is considered a need. So then that's gonna be another 3-hour conversation. I'm just trying to get the board together, that on the next meeting, I want to try to get so much closer, so that we do to vote on this in December. There's only one meeting in November, there's one meeting in December. I need to get somewhere closer to closure. I still today have not heard from anybody, are we splitting the bond or not? I did give my opinion on that splitting the bond.
Well, you heard from Mr. Grillo, but you can't, it's not ethical.
Listen, Lee, you
It's not
listen.
unethical.
I still am not sure where you guys leave. All right, wait. So at the next board meeting, am I gonna get an answer? Are we splitting the bond? And if we are splitting the bond,
It's manipulative.
are we to,
That's the
excuse me, are we, if we are coming to the place where we're going to split a bond, are the two of you, when it comes to the table, that means the two of you have to sit together and create a proposition 1 and 2. I'm not gonna sit down at this table because I already feel that it's necessary to keep it as one.
Well, Mr. Grillo said it's manipulative to go out with that type of bond.
That's an opinion, that's not a fact, that's an opinion.
Well, yes,
I don't
but
think it was John.
you're kind of
Actually, it
deceptive.
was, I was the one who felt I don't think it's an appropriate way to do it because you
Your
can't
opinion.
Did you say manipulative?
I don't know if I used that word or not. But
That, I take offense to that word, I'm just looking that out there.
and
I
I found it to be a very
I just wanna address it going forward. We're gonna be at another standstill, because if you, and I'm just saying, I don't know what you're feeling, I'm just putting it out there, so if you two decide
No,
to
you're
split.
telling me when.
If you, I said
haven't
if,
spoken.
I said if you two decide to split, and her and I decide to keep it as a whole, then we have another issue. So what I'm trying to do
We have to
tonight,
work together.
is try to get ahead of that. So I'm gonna ask it one more time. Where are we gonna be at the next board meeting? Are we any
And
closer?
you're assuming that I wanted a different.
I didn't, I said
We
if.
need to come together.
I said if.
Right, that's a-
All right, and this is the forum to do it at. You can't do this in an
I
exec
know, but Eileen,
session.
you're sitting here saying this is what I want, and this is.
I'm,
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
if you guys, if you guys are listening to me, I am trying to get ahead of a roadblock.
You just
Right now,
said,
let me
just
finish,
said-
the roadblock is, I don't know where you guys leading, I'm trying to give you a hypothetical of looking forward. If it comes to you two want to split, and then we have the other two that don't want to split, then we are now tangling another delay on this bond,
So
so I'm
So
just
if I'm
leaving things out to the
if I'm understanding you correctly, if Mark and I, 'cause I don't know what I'm doing yet, but if Mark and I decide that we wanted to go with like the bond people wrote to Sharon in that email and do Proposition 1, right? Wait a second, let me finish now. So if we want to do that, then you're saying that you want no part of that, so there will be no discussion, and then you're gonna leave that up to Mark and I, and then we'll have a split vote, because you have your opinion, we have ours, and there's no compromise. Is that what I'm hearing?
I am
That's
taking,
what I think of
I
you.
am taking, I don't know, I can't speak for you, Lee. I am taking
No, I'm
I'm
asking
taking
you.
the advice of what I heard today, and it doesn't sound favorable to do that. So I'm going to go with the recommendation of keeping it as a whole.
Okay, so I'm gonna look into that some more, because that was
I
one
would like to
opinion.
hear, I would like to hear John.
All right, but I want to say something.
Wait, okay, say something.
I kind of like everything that's on there, maybe a few adjustments, but that's why I want to do one altogether, and then if that goes through, two. So this way, you still get what you want, can I talk?
Yes, you-
And it goes through, great. But let's say one goes through and two fails. Well, you got what you want in one, that's a great thing, we should all be happy. So a couple of things failed that I brought over to two. That's my opinion, just what I'm thinking.
Is this his opinion?
It's my opinion. So let's say a couple of things I brought over, let's say the turf fields, I said, you know what? I want to put that in number two. Maybe. And if that gets denied, it is what it is. It's okay. But I might want to put some air conditioning in bottom one. I want to maybe adjust a few things. Nothing major.
Heads are going like this as you're speaking.
Who's that, my head?
No,
No.
community heads.
I'm just, can I finish speaking or no?
Yes, you can, I'm just telling you.
I'm not looking at anybody's head. I'm speaking to you
Let him
guys.
finish, let him finish.
So you understand my point of view. That's all I want to do is give my point. I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm not closed-minded to listening to Mylyn's yours or yours. I'm not
Excuse me, I'm gonna take offense to closed-minded because I
Because
sat on this for
But
22 months.
You're getting angry.
But don't say closed-minded.
He didn't
because
call
I
you
don't-
closed-minded,
He said, don't be closed-minded.
I'm not closed, I said, I'm not
He said he wasn't
closed-minded.
All right.
I'm not closed-minded to listening to what you're saying. That's what
What
I
you
said.
did, I go back to the tape. Okay.
I'll rewind
You
it.
take
He said
anything
he's
personal.
not closed-minded.
Are you finished?
No, I'm not. I don't mind listening to everybody. I'm not closed-minded to listening. And I have my thoughts, and that's okay. We shouldn't get angry about it. So I want this to go through. There's no doubt in my mind I want to go through. If there's something on number one that I feel might hurt it, I think maybe we put it on two. Now, I heard what you just said. It's just a difference of opinions. We should be able to work this out. If we can't, shame on us. But that's on us. Okay? That's on us, because we have to become adults.
All right, I need.
No, I'm not done talking.
Oh, okay, you sound like you were.
No, we need to understand how to get along. It's important that we listen and not just want to be louder or just talk. I sat here 90% of the meeting, and I listened a lot. And I've been doing that since I've been on the board. I don't know a lot of stuff. I'm learning every single day. I went with Linda and I sat in things and I learned stuff that I was like, wow. We don't do any of that. Did I say that to you, Linda? When we just went away to NISBA? I am learning every day, and I don't know it all. I'm going to be the first one to tell you that. I am going to listen to the people. I'm going to listen to what you guys have to say, and I'm going to make the best educated decision I feel is best for this community. But we have to do it together.
Okay, I have a question. I don't call any board members, ever,
I haven't talked to anybody.
okay, ever.
I spoke to
I don't
everyone
text
yesterday.
board members, ever. I don't
Well, what
do
do you-
Facebook, ever. I discourage it, because anyone that has something to say on Facebook should be calling administration. I discourage it all the time. I have said the same, this is my way I look at things. When I hear people, and I heard this tonight, that you two are thinking one thing, and we two are thinking something else, there must have been a discussion going on.
I have not talked to Mark since NISBA.
Well,
Oh, no,
this
once
is
I did,
what
I'm sorry,
this-
once
Wait,
I did.
I'm allowed, wait.
This is
How
the
many
way-
times-
this is-
how many times did you
How
talk?
come when you were quiet when you spoke?
I just want to know how
Now you're
my
not
lingo for.
quiet when I spoke. This is not, this is what's going on. This is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing people going out there telling the community not to vote on this.
Yeah, who said that? It wasn't me.
It's from my son, and it was the damn thing about
I'm
anything.
accusing you, nor am I
It
accusing
wasn't
you.
me.
You just said I got done talking. I talked to my Lynn yesterday.
Can I ask you guys honestly, if you have this kind of issues amongst
Yeah,
the
this is
board,
terrible.
to take it to executive?
You're not allowed to do that.
I'm
It
gonna
has to
tell
be done
you,
in
well,
public.
I'm gonna tell you why.
That is not an
Because
executive session
us
discussion.
as a public, I've seen this for too many years, and I was praying that you guys together
So
could
was
work
I.
out things better.
So
But
was
if
I.
you can't, you gotta lead by example.
Thank
To the
you.
public, and because imagine if my children were here, how embarrassing this would be.
Thank
I mean, I'm not trying to be, I am one of the most respectful people if you're respectful to me. But like, this is not respectful to everybody. And I don't like the guy yelling at me, he's walking out the door either. Not respectful, like, there's a way to do things and a way not to. You guys are all above it. That's what I'm telling you. Y'all.
Thank you.
We
I
have the
know a lot
most
of you.
respect for all
You
of
are.
you.
I appreciate your service, appreciate what you guys do. Why don't you, if you can't make a decision, do it in an executive session.
You're not allowed to, Jackie.
You're not allowed to.
Well,
It has to be discussed in public.
I understand that, but then you
The problem is
should, then it should
communication.
behoove you to know that the community's watching and you don't want that. You
Well,
don't
you
want.
have
I'm not
to
fighting. I don't feel like
We're not
I'm
fighting.
No,
I'm
but
not
just,
fighting with it.
you understand what I'm saying? From what
I
we're here
agree.
sitting, it
I
sounds
agree.
like
But you have to have a discussion, and sometimes
You're
it gets a
getting
little heated.
snippy with each other.
it's not working.
It's frustrating sometimes.
You're not filling each other's buckets.
You're right.
There's no
Right.
lying
You're
team.
being bucket
There's no
dippers.
lying team.
We do have a retreat coming up about communication.
All right, so I'm gonna let John speak. Are you done, Lee?
I want you to just one time explain what you explained to me before about putting two propositions out. I mean, this came in an email that sent to someone from one of the board members.
Right, so
I asked it at the last
the question at the last point,
Yeah.
the question at the last meeting was, can you put out a proposition that has two separate components to vote on? And the answer is yes. You can put two propositions, you can put three propositions, you can put 20 propositions. There's no limit to the number of ones you can do. it gets tricky because some people don't necessarily understand and appreciate the process that you don't get A unless B, you don't get B unless you approve both. A has to be approved regardless. It becomes confusing. We're sitting here trying to have a conversation about the funding, about the capital reserve, about the debt service. There is a lot of elements here that we're trying to do in education. There's a lot of people who spend a lot of time listening to the conversation, now think about taking that out to the community and trying to take it out to the masses. You can say that only 1,000 people voted. I know it's not a lot, but it's important that we still are transparent, that we let people know exactly what's happening, that they have an opportunity to be fully educated on what's going on.
But you can educate them both ways.
You can. All I'm saying is it's difficult.
It's compromise. It's a great word.
And I'm not, all I'm saying is I believe it to be difficult. I believe it to be problematic. That's my opinion. Nothing more, nothing
You're
less.
an opinion. Thank you, John.
The piece that I want to focus on, and what I,
You know, he's speaking.
I'm sorry, that's okay. The piece that I want to focus on was something Mark said, and what I heard him say. He supports it, and he wants to see it all go through. That's the piece I heard. When I move forward, when I sit here and I dedicate the next umpteen nights and umpteen weeks and umpteen years of my life, and I take away from my family, I need to know that I have full consensus. Now, I understand, and I hope I'm not coming off disrespectful, because that's the last thing I want to do. People have a difference of opinion. We have to find out what that compromise is. I don't want to jeopardize any one element of this conversation, because the people who put it there, not necessarily myself, I can speak to the facilities. We want us to talk about floor tile, no problem. We want to talk about pipe installation, no problem. We want to talk about playgrounds, no problem. We want to start talking about libraries, I can't do that. The people that put that item on the list, the people that spend the time talking about it, they're not here to defend it. The people that talked about the field house aren't here to defend it. We have so many elements in this project that we need to find what that compromise is. I don't want to see anything jeopardized, but I know that we need to come up with a collective solution. Because if we don't, and if we can't do so in a timely fashion, and this gets delayed further,
Hurts us.
not only hurts us, every single estimate that we've come up with, throw it out the window. We're going to have to re-estimate this. That is what we're up against. Since last December when bond council came in, I presented the first $28.5 million. In March, when we started getting information and feedback about the library component, I presented again. In July of this past summer, I presented the project again. We presented it again last week, we're presenting it again now. I understand it's a huge obligation and it's a huge decision and it has a way of shaping this district for the next decade. That's the way I look at it. There's not an element in this project that I don't think is a 15 to 20 year solution. That's what I'm looking at. We cannot continue to wait before we make a decision. And I don't know what it takes to get there. I don't know if we have to have board meetings every single night until we can agree on something. Well, you know what? I can hear what you're saying, but I'm telling you, I'm that committed because I believe in it and I will do everything I possibly can. Not just because I've spent the time up to this point, but because I've listened to the staff, I've listened to the people in the field, I've listened to the administrator, and I know from my own personal experiences. We have an opportunity to do something good. We need to figure out what that good is for everyone. Because this is not healthy. This makes me want to call in sick on Tuesday nights. And I have too much invested here, as I know everybody in this room does. And I just need help getting to that point. Through all that last week.
Thank you, John. It's very well said, and that's why I wanted to try to get somewhere at the next board meeting where we're not just spending 3 hours on this. I'm trying to kind of narrow it down a little bit so when we lead into the December 5th, you know, I'm feeling like we're here and we should be here. But that's my feeling. I'm hoping at the next board meeting, we are going to be here. But I don't feel that way.
Ours. Just so you know,
But
better
the other
look in the
thing-
mirror. You better look in the mirror, that's last.
Okay, look in the mirror. This
All
John
of
is,
us, I'm
listen,
not saying.
John has been presenting since July.
not
This,
debating
I mean, if anybody had
You're
any.
defending yourself.
No, 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 I'm not, no, 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 I'm not, no, 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 I'm putting out the facts out there.
We need to.
I'm putting it, John has been presenting this budget several times since July, since we've been here. So I was hoping that the board would have been that much closer to analyzing what was already on the pieces of the bond.
What you
What
saying
you
is,
were hoping
rather than
is
waiting
that
till
we
we
had the exact same decision as you.
What?
That's what you were hoping. So everybody can
No,
understand
no,
this.
no, no, what I'm asking.
We don't need to go back.
What I was saying was, I was hoping that we were that much closer to next week formalizing, finalizing, so they could go on a December vote. I'm not sure if I'm hearing that today. And we
So
spent
if we
almost.
disagree with you next week, say we decide next week.
why is it
I mean,
we?
don't say
Why
we.
is it
All right,
we?
so if
You know what?
I disagree.
You guys can say we.
They work towards
You
it.
already saying,
I'm my own
because
person.
you said it was gonna be a two thing, so
I know, I said if, I
I'm
said
just using
if, I
this
said if,
as a
I said if.
scenario.
Why is it we?
All right, I'll be quiet.
Well, look, you've been saying we too, so stop.
I only said it as a
No, I
scenario
only
because
heard
you
You've
said
been
it.
saying that.
I only said it as a
Stop.
scenario because you said it.
It should
I
be
was trying
we.
to understand what Mylon
It
is trying
should
to
be
say.
we. But there's some inside conversations going
I'm
on
done.
that are going on.
Yes, sir.
This is a public discussion. I appreciate the time that you guys spent on the committee, and I know where you stand. Loud and clear, that's great, and I appreciate that. For yourselves, is it possible at any point in the next week to go through it? You've done a calculation as to what you believe are repairs. I'd like to sit down with you and discuss it to see if we actually.
I just pulled out the repairs. The actual.
Well, your definition of a repair might be different than mine. You might be saying that a playground is not a repair.
I saw the playgrounds, John, I walked around with you.
But that's what I'm saying. I'd like to.
I didn't pull those out.
Well, why would you disagree? You want to move this forward?
I didn't disagree with him, Lee.
All
wasn't
I'm
your
asking
We'll say
is
yes or no.
if you will utilize me as a resource to try to find that common ground. If we can sit down independently, collectively, however you want to do it.
Independently, I have no problem with that.
However you want to do it, and go line by line, and try to get a better understanding as to what you believe to be the best direction for the
Kind of,
district.
I said it out loud, kind of.
He said it
Almost everything.
You did, but you
There's a
also
couple of
said.
things I think maybe that should go on too.
So why don't you meet
I
with him
like
and
the other,
discuss it?
I like the 1 and 2.
And I said it last week, I like the
So
split.
Some people don't like that. We need to get a compromise because rather than just,
Is there historical data if school districts around split? What is the success rate compared to that?
When I've seen splits, it's been usually one project. I've never seen a district roughly down the middle.
no. I
on
want
its
this to do
first
that.
needs, or, well, if you're looking at repairs at 17 million.
That was, somebody said something, I pulled up repairs.
And the problem with that, when you add multiple things into your Prop 2,
I know.
is how do you
Taking what I said as
establish
gospel,
that?
like,
I mean, if we gave that
being devil's
document,
advocate.
if we gave that document out to everybody in this room, we'd probably come up with 25 different.
Now you got 18 different side conversations,
Well,
I
that's
can't
why
even
I was going back, so that's why I was going
Can I
back
hear
to what I
Mr.
was saying
Grillo, please?
before.
I would
You
like to
wanna
hear
create
Mr.
the
Grillo,
two
finish what
lists.
he's saying.
Then we're gonna be a fight on what goes on the two lists.
I had a $99 billion bond 20 years ago.
The
same thing is being said, but they're not.
I know that we had a committee that walked around and you know, I was not attending meetings back in January, otherwise I would have been like, please put me on that committee. My question is, I've been coming to meetings since February, and I have been involved in all of these discussions at every meeting since. And what I can see is that the community's response to things that are on this has been pretty much the same as far as suggestions. So my question is I know that there was a committee that was formed that also came up with these, but did they ever sit down and take into consideration the things that people who might not have been on the committee and walk the grounds that do come to the meetings every week and suggest these things, did they ever sit and look at the notes or watch the tape? Because the same people are here at the meetings. And I know I've heard all of these discussions, and I know that there was a committee.
Committees from 2 years ago.
Right, my question is I know that we've all, I mean, us community members who are here at almost every meeting have gotten up to the podium and given our suggestion on this. But there are items that still aren't on there that we have been saying from the get-go that we want to see on there. So that's my question.
That's a good question.
Have those been considered as additional items, and what you guys are saying maybe you don't agree on? Maybe not saying sit down and come up with a new one. I know that's
came in and adds, I get it. What I'm saying is maybe that's the second proposition. Maybe those things that we've been saying from the get-go, that we've wanted to see as a community, maybe those are what goes on that proposition too. Like you have the one, and then you know what, this is what the community has really been saying for, I mean, the past 9 months. This is what they've been saying they'd like to see on this bond additional. So here's your one, and then if you want these two, then maybe that's what you
I think what that's saying is gonna put us over the dollar.
Yeah, but you already, so you're saying to keep the 49, we're gonna just round it off, 49.
Or
And now
maybe-
you wanna put on an additional, say, 20?
No, like maybe there's some things that you have on there that you're like, you know what, maybe there's another way of tweaking this so we can include maybe a phase or a step with some of the other items. We know you can't build a brand new building in one new day. There's a lot of parts that go to that, and there's a lot of different phases and different aspects of it. So maybe get the ball rolling on even one thing that the community has been looking for. And, maybe cut.
Maybe we can have a vote for phase one and then maybe a second. I don't know if that's possible.
I'm not saying that's what you have to write. I'm just giving suggestions as maybe where you guys could find common ground. There's always gives and takes.
There is common ground to be found, we just haven't discussed it.
A couple of things to that, if I can. If we're splitting into a 1 and 2, it has to be with these projects that have been reviewed and discussed and approved and budgeted. If there are other projects, see the difference on the public sector side is the dollars have to be established and the projects have to be established before you can do the work. The money's got to be there first. Like if you're going to renovate your home, you could say, well, I want to do these 10 things and however much money is left, that's how I'll do it. We kind of have to do it backwards. So if there is a list of other projects that members in the community have talked about the last 9 months that haven't gotten to John and myself or the committee, there was, like we had said before, there's probably 30 or 40 other projects that were on here that wound up on the cutting room floor. Some of them may have been brought to the committee and we didn't accept. Some of them I might not have budgeted yet. So if we don't know those, and I haven't even budgeted those, I can't present them to you guys because they're not in this document, they couldn't even vote at this point.
So we need to get them together if there is a field.
If there are
But
other,
then you'd have to redraft an entirely new.
we would have, you couldn't just say, let's do these, if there's extra money. Because then that comes back to the community saying, well, they only needed 50, but they really asked for $70 million worth of stuff. I voted for this stuff thinking all of these B-wish projects are going to get voted on and get done, and now they're not. Now here's the board promised me something, and it's not getting done. So it's, I don't envy the Board of Education at all because they got to make these decisions. And bond council will tell you, you could have a B list. And you can only do those B list projects if every project on A was done to satisfactory of the Board of Education and the school district. Then you could look at a Prop 2. But if it wasn't on that original ballot, then all bets are off.
So you have to
So,
reprice and
yeah,
come up with an
John.
entirely
Yes.
new.
John, so I'm gonna just pick something off the list. I'm really, literally gonna go and just pick something off the list.
Okay.
Refurbishment, I'll do exterior masonry reconstruction. That's probably not a good one, but it doesn't matter. It just says exterior masonry reconstruction. So there's a whole bunch of things in here, right?
The narrative piece?
Yeah, the narrative piece.
Yeah.
And again, it's not a good one, it's only $195,000, but I'm just picking it for giggles. Say there was a part of this that you could get away with not doing this one section of it and cutting that price. That's the kind of thing that we could come together on and do on a B list, correct?
Not a good one to start.
It's not a good example, I said that.
Yeah, I know.
But do you understand what I mean?
And,
You want me to do a library, that's probably easier. So a media center, this is Sycamore Avenue Media Center, that's probably easier. So this one says the whole shared learning space, you want it to look like that.
Yep.
Maybe the compromise could be, just change out the rugs and put a little bit of furniture in. And then that would lower the price to maybe $200,000 instead of $795,000. That's the kind of thing that you can work on, correct? Or compromise on, that's the word.
Go ahead.
I'm not saying that, I'm using that as an example,
But just
please don't take that
saying
as gold.
To get aid in a room, you have to demolish the room.
No, to get aid, you have to do a repair.
No,
to get
no,
the-
no. You have
No.
to refurbish the whole room, from the ceiling to tiles, the walls, everything. So if you're just putting in carpet, you're not gonna get aid.
You're not gonna get aid for that, but
That's
that's right.
why when you do a tile in this room, and it costs $3,000 versus doing a whole room costs $10,000.
Right, so you're not, so,
Both jobs,
so,
all the
again, so
districts.
we'll do the numbers really fast. So say we did that, it was $800,000 to start, but the way we compromised, again, just an example, nothing that I'm saying that I wanna do. Please remember this, just an example. Now it comes down to $200,000. The aid that we would have gotten on $800,000 is still
More than the 200.
Net charge
a
of
little more than the
200, yeah.
Still more than the 200.
Right.
So it still makes more sense. to
All right, so
hold
say we
it.
brought it down to lower than the 8. You
Right.
could do that. I mean, you could work it out where it would be,
But then,
but you're still paying the same amount of money if you did it the,
Oh, we can
no,
even
it's not
for
quite that
first
much. There is a way to compromise so that you do the dollar amount.
All right.
But they're not listening because everybody else is interrupting me, but that's okay. I'm all right with that.
There's always.
There is a way to compromise, is my point.
Sure, I just don't know,
Which by
I just don't know where it starts
Then no.
and how much time it takes to do that. That's all. I mean, is there some compromise?
Can you meet with these people?
I just told my community in the town, what else wanted to do?
I heard you say that.
Well, listen,
I've met with John, I've talked to John, I went on every building thing with John. We talked at the last meeting. We spoke at the first one. It's not like I'm not talking to John. I told John my feelings, John knows how I feel about
Sit down and
this.
talk to him now.
I did sit down and talk to John
No,
many
are
times.
you gonna sit down and talk to him now?
Of course I will.
No, I'm not
Not
talking.
tonight.
No, I know not tonight, but he offered his time.
John, do I always take you up on, every time you offer me, do I take you up on it?
you actually.
Lee, I didn't say I would do that.
In all honesty, your involvement in walking the buildings, the questions you asked the time you spent was,
Thank you.
in all honesty, better than any board member I've ever dealt with.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
So I do greatly appreciate your lens and your perspective. I do worry about it through my lens and my perspective, and the
I
amount of
understand
time and scope. That's my
I
case,
understand.
that's my concern. You know, I understand your point. We could go line by line and look at what compromise. No, I'm just saying, and trying to figure out where the compromise lies with everything.
There's it costs us $40,000 to put this out, and if the whole thing fails, then we gotta spend another $40,000 to redo it again.
No, it's gotta pass, that's the way.
Yeah,
It pays $99 million.
that is absolutely something that needs to be considered. And
Want to read part of that $99 million bond? No, I don't even think that kicks in. What year, 2008?
And that's why I go back to myself.
You were
All four board members.
You were there. Remember that?
That's the most important thing.
Yes, I remember.
Sounds like she's on board. but
I didn't say there's not one thing that I don't want done. I
I
didn't
don't,
say
you,
that.
I feel like I'm on
share that with me.
I told you that.
Point blank.
I,
told you that.
there was assumptions made tonight, but I didn't say them.
But you have.
I have shared it with you that I think they ought to be done.
But you didn't share it with the rest of us.
No, I didn't talk to you, I talked to John. You don't call me, you call Mom.
So, that being said, I think,
And Lee doesn't talk to anybody, so how would I share it? Lee doesn't call me, so I wouldn't share it with Lee. You don't, why would I share that?
But why didn't you share it here tonight? Now
I was
you're-
listening, and I was learning, I was listening.
One of the things
See, I
that you,
can listen
one of the
and
things you were
learn.
saying is it's informational meeting, and I was just hoping, that over the course of these last couple of months, that you would have had your questions.
I had my questions, and John answered them. You were just outside the room, so you missed that whole part, Mike.
So I'm gonna bring it back, I'm gonna reiterate, I'm hoping at the next meeting that we can come this much closer.
To what you want, or to what compromise? I'm just curious.
I don't know what that answer is.
Oh, okay.
so
That's what I wanted to know.
I'm gonna do my best to interpret, and I hate doing this, but once again, I heard Eileen just say that she supports the project. That doesn't mean that she believes that it should go forward to the taxpayers in its entirety up front. To me, that gives us 4 people that support the scope of work. That's spectacular. Now we just gotta figure out how to make sure we get that scope of work to the community.
Thank you, John.
We're that much, we are that.
We could have done that like
That's what I'm trying to
2.5
tell you.
hours.
We,
You seem like you like.
but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, that's exactly what I said. I said that to you several
I
times.
would.
So this is a quandary, so we're that much closer, but we're gonna split it. So I don't think that's coming that much closer.
That may not be the case yet. So they may not be. Neither Eileen nor Mark, from what I've heard, have taken a strong stance as to how they're going to vote when it comes to the They've expressed an interest in looking into two separate propositions. We have to figure out what that looks like, which is why I offered this. Which is why I said, let's sit down and try to figure it out. Because if both, and this is not fair either, but if both of them have similar approaches as to what should be resolution 1 versus resolution 2, it's worth hearing that and finding out where we are.
And then I just feel, I mean, I could be wrong, so if we go to entertain that idea, then we're back with the task of now, okay, what goes on 1, what goes on 2? And that could take hours and hours and hours to even to get to that, because then it's gonna lead, I'm just projecting. That could lead to maybe lead things that, I don't know, auditoriums to be Proposition 1. Maybe I lead things that should be on Proposition 2. And then we're gonna start getting into that minutia.
We totally agree that 90%.
Totally agree that that's a possibility. It doesn't mean it's going to be the outcome.
We'll agree that.
My question is, are you 100% against that, Mylan? That's my question to you.
The email me back, I'll forward it to John.
Thank you.
I just think, I'm just trying to head off something that I think could potentially be a problem.
You're not answering the question.
I'm trying to give you a scenario. I think, say for example, Lee thinks the masonry should be done, or the concrete work should be done at Cherokee. You may not think so. We may have a half hour, 40-minute debate where she may say, concern, I know you don't like the word debate, and then we're getting at particular, and we're gonna be,
I don't think.
what we're doing is that we're gonna start picking apart this bond, and going by, and going by line item, okay, is this Prop 1 or Prop 2? Okay, she may say it's Prop 1, you're gonna say it's Prop 2, and then we're gonna, I mean, John, maybe I'm not saying it adequately enough, but that's where I'm trying to get.
But are
So, no,
you,
that's what you're trying to avoid?
I'm trying to avoid that,
Right.
correct.
We
so you
don't
want it on
have-
all, and you're not willing to put it on 2? That's my question.
Let's let the process play out.
Because I think by going
So
on,
you just answer my question.
yeah, I'm not willing to go to that because I can already foresee that we're gonna have a debate. She may think masonry is important, you may not think it's important, I may think it's important, or I may not think it's
I don't
important,
think
you
you
know.
have to be flexible.
Listen, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and it's valuable across the board. Because if we get past this, and we have to go to the community, and we have to advocate for it, we have to believe that we're advocating
Of
for it.
course.
Let's let the process play out. Let's give an opportunity for conversations to occur for both Eileen and
I don't
Mark.
want to waste my time though. Just if you're dead set against
Okay,
compromising at all,
listen,
I'm not going to waste my time.
Listen,
I don't want to do that.
talk to John, decide what you want on Proposition 2.
No, it's not up to me to
I don't know
decide
if I
that.
want Proposition 2.
It's not up to me to decide
I'm waiting
that.
for John Grillo to call me back, to text me back.
Okay,
He tells me,
whatever.
I asked
Don't do
the
it.
question,
Whatever.
if you're dead set against
You're not
compromising,
listening to
then
me,
there's
you're
no point.
arguing with me.
I'm not
Yes,
arguing.
you are.
I'm trying to tell you.
No, I'm telling
that
you
there's
something.
no point.
Whatever it is that
You're
you're
yelling,
concerned
I'm not
about,
yelling.
because I'm trying to talk
All right,
over
well,
you.
don't you talk over me. I'll
Okay.
stop. Go ahead.
Why don't you just talk to John? Whatever you feel as though should be in Proposition 2, have it
I'm
all-
not going to choose that.
have it
That's
all
nothing.
worked out, what you personally feel.
I'm not going to choose that.
Why, you can make it.
No, you can make it.
I can give you
I
suggestions, but I'm not going to choose items.
you know,
And that's all.
That's what
To
you
do anything more than that would be unfair.
But we talked about
Take
this.
care of all of that with John,
I talked to him about it.
individually. Take care of it. Bring it back next meeting, so we have something to work off of.
And that's what I asked. So if I do that and I come back, Mylin just said that she's dead set against
You know,
splitting it.
you know,
So why would I
one of
do-
the
why would I
things
waste
back,
your time?
one of the
Especially,
things that I did try to prep, one of the things I did try to do is prep for this meeting. I think I did a lot of preparation. I think me personally, I'll speak for myself, I did a lot of homework. So all the information that was disseminated today, I knew it because I asked the questions or I did my homework and I did my research. So I came in today, I feel very knowledgeable about every aspect of it, the financial piece of it, everything that was on the bond, capital works and stuff like that. I felt like I came in here totally prepared. To me, this was great as an information piece, to put out in the public, it's being taped, so for those that are not able to attend these meetings, they have that piece, because now they've seen the work scope, they've seen the financial scope and things like that. What I did ask in an email is that if they was looking to do a second, I did put it in an email to the board, please show what that would look like. And today, I just feel a little frustrated because I came in here prepared, and I was hoping that we, after 3.5 hours, we could have gotten a little bit closer, but I don't think we're any closer. I don't think we're any closer. I don't think we're any closer at the beginning of this meeting as we are at the end.
Can you just answer
So
my
I think
question?
that's where my frustration is coming in, so I
So I'm
apologize.
frustrated that you're not answering my question.
But I was
Closer
trying to
what?
finish my
You
question,
wanted
my
it
thought.
closer to having it done without any compromise, having it done on a full bond, the way you just said you wanted it. That's what I'm hearing from you. Can you please just correct me if I'm wrong? You want the full bond, that's it, you're not willing to talk about it, compromise, so that's what I'm hearing.
And
So I'm saying-
I'll repeat my opinion again, because you asked me, I answered you the first
I
time,
know,
I'll
but I
answer you the second time.
That's a yes or no.
It's a yes or
I'm
no.
gonna say no, and I gave you a reason why. So, but you're not
So you're not
respecting,
willing to compromise.
you're not respecting my reason. I already said it, if we're gonna get into
So
a
that,
debate.
so my only question for asking that is, so that I'm not gonna sit down with John
Doesn't
and waste
pay to
his
even talk
time
to
then.
John. Really what you're saying
Right,
is
that's
either
what I'm
I'm
trying
doing
to
it
tell
your
you,
way or
President.
forget it.
I'm
No,
You understand what
saying-
that's like, he's just trying to
you know
say.
what, you wanna interpret it my way or
I'm
your
asking
way.
you.
I listened to the
It's not
professionals.
my way. I don't have a way.
Listen, I not only sat on this committee, but I
I'm not
also
gonna waste
heard,
your time, John. She has
I
something
also heard the recommendations of everybody, from principals down, what they wanted to see on this project. I sat with Lee on this bond committee, capital improvement committee, for over 22 months. I'm hearing Mr. Gorillo say, it's not favorable when you do this. So I don't want to discredit. For me, it feels like almost I'm discrediting the work, not just myself, but for the other 20 people that sat on this committee. Because I don't think there was ever a conversation of splitting this bond. So this is all.
It was last week, the last meeting.
But in the 22 months was never a discussion.
Well,
I
maybe
think
that
everybody,
should come that idea.
I think everybody who sat on this committee, there was things that
So
were
then the
taken on, there
committee
was.
should be up here on the board, and I should resign on my seat. That doesn't
All
make
right, you know
sense.
what, you sat at this podium plenty of times and said, you don't respect what the committee says. When we had a
I respect everything that's on that
when we
list.
had a
Don't put words in my mouth, Mylene. Don't
So you
do
never,
that.
all right, so I'm gonna bring you
I
back,
didn't say that I didn't like any of those projects.
I'm gonna bring you back to a time when they had the committee had came
What are
back.
we trying to prove here?
I don't know. I don't know what the point is.
We just get along.
All right, I'm just gonna drop it right there.
Thank you.
So I've made a point of putting my foot in my mouth and saying things that I probably will regret later. Mine, what I heard you say is based on the information available to you and the time and the conversations you've had, you don't see yourself changing your opinion. It's fine.
That's fine.
I
That's
think
fine.
to even entertain the second step of now piecemealing this bond is gonna be another 2 to 3 weeks.
Are you
And I
willing to
know
take
that we're
anything
working,
out of it?
and I know we're working on a timeline that we don't have that 2 or 3 weeks to start pulling this bond apart. That's just my opinion.
Understood, and that may be the case, but I really think it's important to hear the conversations that both Mark and I can share at this point.
I don't want to waste your time though, John.
It's not a
It's dead set. It's a.
Because
I'm
at
not
some
gonna waste my time
point,
either.
at some point, and I can appreciate that, at some point moving forward, this district needs to think about a capital project.
Well, I'm gonna speak to you no matter what. 'cause I'm hoping
So
we
with
can
that in
resolve
mind,
something.
we're either throwing everything out right now and starting from scratch.
Which is a shame.
Or we're gonna find the compromise, and I would greatly prefer the latter. So,
what I think.
let's let the conversations occur, let's see where they happen. I'm not saying, listen, I have strong opinions, I've shared them all tonight repeatedly.
And I'm
That
taking
being-
those recommendations.
And I appreciate that, and I greatly do, but I also don't want
I
to.
like you, John, but I'm not taking over that.
That's fine too, I don't take it
Okay,
personally.
I know
That's
you
fine.
don't.
I just want to make sure that at the end of the day, everybody's in agreement, not only at the podium, but throughout the community. I don't want this to be 500 to 501 that we pass it. I want everybody to collectively get behind us and support it.
Exactly.
That's what we need to do, that's what we gotta look forward to.
I agree.
We've never been 100% behind any,
No.
every single thing that attorney brings forward. That's been our complaint, that, so many times interviews, how many committees,
know.
I think the committee did a wonderful job, I don't discount
We feel like
anything you
it's
guys
not
did.
even heard. I think it's been heard, and I think there's a lot there, but there's also stuff that can be tweaked or compromised or taken out. Again, we never take 100% of what the committee says, you know, what they come
Usually
up
we
with.
take like
It is a lot of hard
1%
work and all
input.
that. Right, in the past.
Right.
I mean, that's why you won't find me on one anymore.
I agree with that because if it's causing you guys to argue like this, not saying that, you know, you guys are like fighting each other, but you're not there collectively, and I know all four of you have spoken about wanting to do what's best for the kids and the community. And so if you guys are at odds, this is not saying pulling, I mean, everybody knows pulling this apart and piecemealing it, as long as you guys have come to this road, is a lot of work and a lot of time out the window. However, that being said, all of you have shared that common ground. That's why I know I voted the other members in that are in there now, because I know all of you up there stand your ground when it comes to what's best for the kids and what's best for the community, and question where our dollars are being spent. And question, don't just frivolously approve something because. So if it takes pulling this apart, and it sucks, but if it takes pulling it apart and maybe piecemealing and compromising on different things and coming up with a different amount, it does stink and it does add to the work. But then I know as a community member, if you guys agree on it, then I can stand behind it more.
Shoot, you guys even you might end up all agreeing on it once you
On the
guys.
same thing of being like, you know what, let's just go with what we had.
Once you sit down with John, you might feel differently. If you all day, but thank you,
It's
John.
gonna fail anyway when I come back.
But I think if Mark and Eileen definitely have questions and they want to sit with John and they're not fully there yet, then you should.
Well, saying that she's not involved, you just said that. 3 times I answered a question, 3 times you answered, not you, Lee. But so, I don't know, I mean, that's.
I want to hear what you guys have to do.
I asked for it in an email, and I know it will be
It's not the way it's gonna happen, because I think it's what John individually, by themselves, and they can tell John, he feels what he wants out of Proposition 2, that's what you really want, that's what you really, really want. You really, really feel.
I want to find out if it makes a difference. Really, really, really what I want to know? I already asked, how many times have I looked at you and said, please, about 47 times I said, if this is something that they don't do, and if every time it fails, I'm against it.
Okay, no,
I'll say it out loud. But if he tells me it's been done 1,000 times, or it's passed 930 times, it doesn't affect us.
Mark, but I can tell you, in the last, I'm in 35 districts, so in the last Prop 2 I've done was Hopog, which 2008 was the last time I had a bond, or a Board of Education recommends splitting a bond. That's 25% of
And did
schools
it
on
pass?
failed like crazy.
Both did. So there was a problem with both.
Yeah, the split out there was synthetic turf, and most of the community did not want
So
synthetic
even
turf.
if you put it together, it would have failed.
Because they failed number 1.
That's what I want to find out.
10 years ago, synthetic turf was brand new, and people were like, I don't want turf.
If you come back and tell me there's 100 votes and 99 times one went through and 10 didn't go through, it means people are looking at it and saying, hey, I want what we all want. But number 2 is maybe the turf field that I put on there, or whatever I suggested, and that they don't want it. Okay, it is what it is, but at least we got one done. I want the community to listen and make an educated decision.
But I guess back to my original question, if you're gonna add projects in,
I don't think we're adding anything.
Can't
I'm not adding anything.
that would kind of
I joked around about the central ASIC. I'm
screw
not,
up the,
Usually
I'm
that's
not
one
looking
thing
to
I'm
change
sure.
anything they did,
well, if you,
except to possibly split it.
I can't provide you the necessary documentation
I said I wasn't.
if you have to add more projects.
That would be a separate bond.
bond.
Are we done?
That's the easy part, the secret, the environmental piece that would, they go to turf, it screws up the whole secret environmental.
So the next meeting is next Tuesday? So it sounds like at this point, you guys have a couple more questions, and then next Tuesday,
Include it
you
in
decide
that.
whether, well,
I don't have any questions, I just got.
well, you need to look, between now and next Tuesday, you need a little more time,
Correct.
right? And
Right.
then you're gonna devote, and then it sounds like it's going up to either one whole thing or a split thing, potentially, right?
That'll be up to, yeah.
Right, okay. So then, at that point, you gotta deal with what the vote comes in, right?
It is what it is.
I don't think the public's paying attention. It affects having two lots, that's what I'm hoping we have educated people that look at it. But some of the people are saying, no, they don't even look, they just need to know. I don't know.
And on the
When you
flip
look
side-
at something, anybody here.
Did you know that there was a reverse, you had to reverse your ballot today in the election?
No.
You had to vote a referendum, yes or no, on the back of your ballot.
Okay.
Only in Brookhaven, not here.
Yeah.
Because I
New York City?
flipped mine. I always
Yeah.
flip my ballot.
But a lot of those referendums don't get voted on.
They don't get voted on.
People don't know
But then
that
the
flip
15
the
people I know about it do vote on it.
So,
But that wasn't here and I checked.
Does everybody read that?
I read. They actually have a magnifying
I
glass.
don't know if
You
we
never
read,
know.
but we listen to the people who come and present.
Okay, are we,
I've never voted down the school budget. I've never voted down the capital budget, anywhere I've been, personally.
I voted for Homeless Citizens.
I didn't see them on my ballot.
I
But I'm
voted.
just saying, so did I, you asked the question, do I read it? No, I have not read everything. I trust the process and I respect what happened, and I'm fortunate that I can say, yes, education is important. Will I say that 20 years from now when I have kids in the system? I can't speak to that. Right now, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Can we get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Anya, would you like to add anything to this?
John. Have John go do the work that he said and we'll move forward. I would like to invite any members of the facilities advisory committee who can be available for next Tuesday meeting, just in case the board has more discussion.
I have no more discussion.
You need to have discussion, because you're gonna need to make a decision at the next board
But
meeting.
not, I don't need any questions answered. I have
Okay, so on that note, I will adjourn this meeting. A motion is second to it. No, actually, it's not a meeting. It's not a meeting. I'm just holding a meeting. That's all I'm doing.